Should I do start knocking everybody over here? Sorry if I hit you. All right, we're live.
Get started. Well, first of all, just welcome. I'd like to welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us this evening. Appreciate seeing a lot of friendly smiles out there. A great opportunity for us to get together and take care of some of our community business, especially for City of Lytle. So let's go ahead and if you could please rise, we're going to go ahead and get started with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you. I'm waiting for that too. Waiting for that, Boy Scouts. I always remember being able to do that. All right. We'll go ahead and jump right into it. Take care of the first one is visitors and citizens comments. You would like to go ahead and come on up? Come on up, sir. Hey.
I'd like to thank you all for your time. I'd like to approach the council here. Usually I start any meeting with a safety topic, but we'll skip that part. We'll get in. I've lived in Lytle for the larger part of my life. We've got three little boys that attend the Lytle ISD. Wife is working on her master's degree in early childhood development, and I've been in construction for the greater part of 20 years. Moving on, I received 2 degrees in construction management and building construction. build projects from state parks to Academy Sport HEBs and current projects, $500 million plus single scope contract. I would like to thank the aldermen of the council and the mayor for your service and dedication to our city. I would like to thank the secretaries and the attorney for your dedication and service as well. And I would like to applaud the fire department, the police department, and first responders for their great sacrifice and dedication to our community here. At this time, I would like to address a concern. One of the new speed limit signs was placed directly in front of the property that we own, right in front of the home, preventing full and acceptable access to the drive areas. We are planning to fix this home when we have the time and the money. When something is done that interferes with the intent and progress of the project, it is literally my job to find the solution. This sign caught me off guard. I do not speak up unless there's concern, and I do not sit on my porch waiting for the first issue to complain about. I'm coming to you today to request this new posted speed limit sign be relocated and placed at a property intersection, preferably at the alley utility pole, less than 100 feet away, so it does not impede with access to the home and cause greater risk of injury or damage by interfering with common access. I do understand that this may be a small inconvenience to the city and the utility department, but please understand that this is a greater inconvenience if left alone. I just want to thank you all for your time and consideration on this.
Council, any questions?
First of all, what is your name, sir?
So Will Bond,
I thought we discussed about moving that sign.
I'm sending Richie and Matt to look at it. I never got a report back, so.
So the way it works is whenever the city's gonna put in signs, whether it's speed limit, caution, school zone signs, that's a public works decision. We'll work with them sometimes. So when it came to this speed limits that the city enacted 25-hour speed limits. So those have to be much better with a lot more signs, because we're not required at a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit. We're not required to post them. It's state law, it's 30 miles an hour. So we don't have to have as many 30-mile-an-hour signs as we do 25. We have to make sure it's clearly posted. So we go out and we have to randomly pick locations that would cover when people turn. And so basically, obviously, we have to do it in the right of way, which the city has a right of way along the roads because we have signs utilities. Well, then we don't want to block somebody's driveway. So that's the number one rule, you don't block your driveway. So when we went out with Public Works and just, going where we needed these signs, the location we picked in front of the house there doesn't block the driveway, and we couldn't go to the utility pole because it sets back too far.
And it's right on top of the intersection.
It's right on top of the intersection. So that was the best location. Probably nobody would prefer a sign. I wouldn't want one in front of my yard if they had to put one there, but I don't know exactly. We could move it. Matt and I looked at options. We could put it between the two property, the two houses. You own both the houses. We could put it right there, but then both the driveways are right there. And it was our opinion that, it'd be more likely to get struck. We don't have, as long as we can clearly mark the street with a sign somewhere in there, the intersection is not going to work. Of course, then we got the little red schoolhouse. We really don't have a personal, it doesn't really matter to us where it is. It just has to be somewhere. And I thought it was a pretty good location because it still left a lot of room over there.
The issue when we looked at it was the two driveways we're talking about are owned by the same person, and it appears to be one large shared use driveway. That's why we didn't want to place it on the property line between the two driveways, because it appeared to be shared use. Where we put it, there did not appear to be a driveway, nobody using it for access. I could see where there was some, for lack of a better term, kind of a swoop in, swoop out the other side. It didn't block that. We chose that location because it appeared to be the best spot. I did call Mr. Vaughn that day. We spoke on the phone about it. He expressed his concern of maybe not being able to back in a trailer right there. I don't know. At some point, we've got to have a spot where we can place our signs and work with the resident. We chose there because did not appear it was being used and hadn't been used for parking in the 20 years I've worked here.
Basically, you kind of get a driveway. It's like TxDOT, we'll give you a driveway or two driveways, but we've got some people here in town, they'll say, well, I want the whole front of my house is a driveway. And unfortunately, that's, we just can't, that doesn't work because we wouldn't be able to place signs. And I say we, it's really Public Works. We just kind of help.
Which was that your district? I'm just looking at the map. It looks like that's Street.
It's right there on North Somerset,
Houston and Somerset.
Houston and Somerset,
When
across from the Little Red School.
Say that again.
When did the sign run?
Last Monday,
Yeah.
Just
last
last week.
and,
Last year?
I was contacted by, Matt here on Wednesday, just my truck was interfering with it, so.
It's not in my business.
Look at the Little Red Schoolhouse.
So my request is, and I don't know what the distances are from the turns. I do understand that the turn from the intersection, you have to have a posted speed limit sign after that so the turning traffic can see the same. My request would be at the utility pole at the alley street. It's 100 feet. It's still before Adams Street, still before the railroad tracks, before they get up to the restaurants there at Main Street in Somerset. Is the best, my suggested recommendation, but even between the two driveways, these properties were replatted. There is a property line between the two.
If we can go to a street view,
Yeah.
if you don't mind, I'll step up to the council. The sign was placed, you can see here the two residences we're talking about. We have driveway 1 and driveway 2. I believe what you're talking about, Will, is placing it in between these two driveways, right? Is what you're talking about? That's what we talked about on the phone.
Sure, that would be the second option, or if you scroll down, like where the cards are on the screen, there's a utility pole, you see the shadow line, and that would be the placement of that. And that would be,
We need to look at that, where the sign currently, if you can go back up. We placed the sign, you can kind of see, council, where you kind of got a slight curvature driveway there. We placed it just up from that, where it didn't interfere with that. We felt at the moment that was the best place to not interfere with the resident and what they were using the property. But
And when we were out there marking it, that's what we all talked about. I mean, it looked pretty darn good to me. In fact, I'm sorry. In fact, some of the others I thought, probably, but that one I thought looked decent. But again, it needs to be in that general area because that's the one people going,
Can you scroll, can you take it up? Scroll up.
There's another one further down, right?
should be down there, yes, sir.
Back out.
Okay. I'm just trying to reach, can you bring it down a little bit? Okay, so right here, in this area, where we have this driveway, is there any reason why it can't be right there? At the end of that property?
Kind of moves it too close, in my opinion.
we get,
Pull-
so on the other side of the street,
Street.
and that
They'll
alleyway,
show you the lot lines.
yeah.
Or not, I'm not sure on the one on the far left, bottom left corner, or other left, military left. Yeah, just click left, left, right. Just the regular one, just the map one. No, that,
You want this one?
yeah, that one.
I really didn't show
Where
you.
the lot.
You see the lot lines.
is.
Oh, okay.
You could drop it in and actually show you. See where those lot lines are? Because the actual road itself is only about 27, 28 feet wide. But the right of way is probably 50 feet. So is it possible we can go ahead and regroup and maybe take a look at it and then look, see, is it your? I'll deal with them since it's streets, I think. I mean, if it's not my district, it's close to it. It should be, right?
Yeah, I was trying to look at the map.
Yeah.
I apologize to take so much of y'all's time over this, and I probably should have gotten on the agenda to take a little bit more time. I can pull out property lines and the survey of the properties just to discuss, but I mean, this introduction, it presents what my concerns are, the tracks in that other yard. I mean, at some point, maybe it's wishful thinking of once that property is developed, but there, to have an entrance and outward of a single driveway is not unreal. So to put a curvature driveway at the corner of a corner lot, I don't think
Where's
is out of my.
Where's the northbound sign, but near there, the one that says 25? Where was it placed?
It's right there at the, around where her mouse is moving. Yeah, right in that area.
So if we put it across there, it would be the same.
Well, no, because the road's shorter.
Yeah.
So you're almost to the railroad tracks by then.
Yeah, we're trying to keep the
You got it.
signage to keep people from going too fast before they see the sign and they're right on top of the railroad tracks.
Once they get up there, they're gonna be, where the tracks and the red line.
I think we can look at it
Can you
and
guys relook at it?
figure out if there's something we can work out.
Because the issue is, you should have those signs posted whenever you, because Houston Street's still 30, so when they turn on Somerset, it's 25, so I just be as close to that intersection as possible. I'll give it to Mr. Long, figure out something that's gonna work.
Cool beans?
Yeah, I appreciate you all very much.
Awesome. We'll get back with you, okay? We'll take care of that one.
Thank you all.
Thanks. Okay, anybody else on citizens, visitor citizens comments? All right. Okay. What we're doing next, we're gonna go ahead and move on to item number 4, consent of agenda. Consider the approval of the minutes. Council, I know you received them over the weekend. If you can quickly glance to that. Thank you, Mr. Vaughn. Josie, on the minutes for April the 25th, page 2.
I sent out with the agenda, Paula didn't do this time, so. Page 2?
Page 2.
Page 2.
The very top, consider an act upon the city administrator's salary and start date.
No, that's supposed to be 80,000 for a year, right?
Yeah, but I think what we agreed upon, council, if I'm not mistaken, we said the 6,154 per month. I think we gave a monthly amount on that, right?
Okay.
So take a look at the notes.
Go back.
Yep. Take a look at the video on there. Take a look at that one.
It wasn't 80,000 a year?
I think we were just doing a monthly for the 6 months, or per month for the 6 months. Is that correct?
We got the 40,000 for the 6 months.
No, we had talked about the monthly amount.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So just look.
So do you just want to put in parentheses? Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
Put the amount on there that we actually agreed upon for the time period. Okay. Have that. On the same one, 1, 2, 3, 4 bullets down. On the consider an act upon providing names for the streets and Lytle Farms.
Okay, what page is this?
Same one. Just go down to
Okay,
consider.
yeah.
It said, make a motion, council approve the list of street names and add 4 names to the list. Did we,
I thought y'all had discussed that and then agreed to let this list be the same and then,
Jerry was insistent that we leave the provision in there that if you wanted to add 4 names to it.
Right.
So it's not like we were going to, but we could add up to 4 names in the future.
okay,
That was my,
okay, and to possibly
yes.
add 4, possibly
something like that.
add 4 names to the list in the future.
Also, it says that Jerry made the motion and that Jerry seconded it.
So
Okay.
put on there.
We'll look at those notes too.
But of course, if anything is changed on that, it'll come back to council, right? With the names.
Yeah. I didn't get a chance to read them over.
Oh, good, that's how we help each other out.
This was Paula's first turn at this, so.
Looks good, Paul.
Not bad.
You're good. You're good.
Is that it?
That's, I don't know what the council said, if they have anything, give them a chance also. Yes, I believe it's approved. Okay, got a motion on the floor to approve. Got a second, any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you so much, appreciate that. Okay, B, consider the approval of city attorney's monthly bill. Josie, on the top of Tom's bill on there, you have it divided up for.
Okay, I didn't do that when that, did that.
Yeah, that's my writing, what's up?
What's the 891.5,
Can I say a copy?
the third?
No, that's actual Tom's bill. 40.
So he gets divided up between like building collection.
Oh, not on this bill. Okay. Okay, that's it right there.
So if you go down and you look through that, when you're totaling it down to the 891.50, it comes to the correct version for South Ocean Wild Farms, and I was capitalizing that.
So those are the separate ones, okay? Okay, good, good, good. Just wondering.
It's still under administration, but you keep a tab on,
Based on the development.
based on which one reached out to Tom.
Make a motion. That's the bill.
Got a motion, so let's go ahead and approve the city attorney's bill. Got a second? Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Thank you so much, appreciate that. Okay, lastly, consider approval of payment of bills. I think we got one added. We had one last one that was given to us.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you one prior to the meeting.
Yep. Oh, so this is a report. That's what that is.
So, and that, what's the difference between these two?
One is more up to date. There were some bills that came in today that Josie said needed to be going
That's
there.
the report?
So look at the one that, look at the bottom date on it for me and look at the, most recent.
5/9?
There you go.
Still like city public service, street lighting, right? Building inspector, we did street lighting for Reliant, which is AEP. And, was the, Capital One wasn't on there, was it? It was, Capital One bill was on there as well. I believe the car washing fees for the police were on there too, right?
Madam Mayor, I move that we accept the expenses as presented.
Second, Mayor. Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Appreciate that. Thank you, thank you. Okay, let's go ahead and jump right into our action items for the evening. 5A, consider and act upon the request for variance for height of gas station sign off of I-35 and FM 3175 intersection. Victory sign. Hey, sir. How you doing?
Good.
Good, good.
Are they on a call? Okay, we've got some people, somebody here's blocking the EMS, they think it's the EMS out. Let's go see what's going on.
If anybody's parked in front of the EMS building, you need to move your car.
They're
You're
trying to
blocking
get
it. They
the
gotta
EMS
go
unit
call.
out, somebody's parking.
Chief.
Is that you?
Yeah.
Got my call, Chief.
It's not in front of it. Yes. That was based on it. I just want to make sure that the amount is, all right. How you doing, sir?
Good, how are you?
Thank you for the opportunity. I know in the past we tried to get together, but because of scheduling conflicts, we appreciate you actually coming over and briefing the council. So I'll let you go ahead and give us an opportunity to, because I know there was some questions about the height and how it was going to look and everything else, but I'll let you go ahead.
So basically, this is the property of the frontage of I-35, and I'm representing the customer, the contractor for the signage. Initially, when we contacted the city, the whole procedure came, and we got the information to go back to Texas dot, and get the approval from them. We got the approval from them, and then Tex dot informed us to go to San Antonio to see if they have no conflict on that, and we got the approval from that also. So now the only thing is that I'm not sure if it is an ordinance from city or it's a city allowance, but city allowed for 25 feet high sign on this property. Based on that, we have the first thing is that the location of this property. The intended development on this is gas station with a big diesel, truck diesel on the back of the property, as well as the restaurant icon. So due to the location of the sign, the property and the signage, the 35 feet will not be visible from the height. Major business what the customer is intending to get is the highway business, and 35 feet won't be visible from highway to. It will be visible, but not that much visible, so that the vehicle can pull over or something like that. So that's what we are asking, the requesting that we can get higher sign so that we can be more visible from the highway, as well as the customer can get the highway business.
I'll go back on the intersection. Maybe. How far back is it?
It is inside the property, and it is about 10 to 12 feet from the property. Inside. And one reason we went to talk to TechStart for the approval is that they wanted to know if the sign is on right of way or it is completely inside the property. So it is inside the property, in fact, it's 10 feet from the property line.
Okay.
Jones? So you said it's not visible from the highway, where is it not visible from? Which direction? Coming south?
Both. If it is 35 feet, both.
Oh, 35 feet, okay. But I was just driving that route today, and there's some pictures, because coming north, once you pass the rest area, you crest a hill, and you can see San Antonio from the crest of that hill. So really coming north, any sign is going to be visible. just on the height of that thing.
But I think, if you go with that, there is a small,
It dips down after the rest area, and then it comes back up, and when you get on that second hill, you have about a mile, 2 miles before you even get to that exit.
also this property is on the curve. It's on the curve, so when, the way we do that is when we take our bucket, which is about 15 feet bucket, and we raise it high, and then we pass and drive through the highway and see if we can see those buckets. Boom lifts.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with this. My favorite taqueria is getting demolished in these truck stops. I'm pretty broken up, but I think a lot of people, they're curious, of course, about the IHOP. Is that for sure? Is the IHOP?
Yes, we have already signed the contract.
All right.
Consolation prize.
And itself, the store itself has security inside. It is branded for the roadsters. Roadster, this roadster brand is they have about 23 locations all over Houston and it's doing on around San Antonio.
Is this the average height that you have on the in the intersection, sir?
No, this 80 feet, yes. Yeah, 80 feet, I've been doing this high-rise signs for last 9 years. And, the minimum, we need at least 75 feet. There is like straight roads and no obstructions and everything. But 80 feet is really good for getting the highway traffic.
And it's not very, very, very bright because it's kind of like, not like the one at Parador, that's real bright.
The only thing that's gonna light up is just the prices. I mean, besides the other ones, just,
Yes,
it's not gonna have an interactive board or anything.
it's just the price and this price, it doesn't have that much to do with this.
Sorry, I think another concern, legitimate concern that people have is the residents, nearby residents, and how the height of that sign is gonna affect them, across the highway, from the parklands. So an 80-foot sign is gonna be kind of towering over them at night. It's light pollution is what it ultimately boils down to. I know what y'all are trying to do, trying to draw in business. But my concern, of course, is how's that gonna affect the residents? It's like, how, because the biggest hurdle that I see for, this location in particular is that exit, is that northbound exit. And if TxDOT would agree to move that exit back a quarter mile, half a mile, that's gonna have a much larger impact on the volume that's coming in, rather than the height of the sign.
So, if the highway traffic will, if the highway traffic wants to go to this location, where taking the exit, it is not possible, because exit is exactly next to this location.
Yeah.
So the only way is to take the exit and then turn right and go on 2175. Because there is another driveway in there.
And my understanding was TxDOT didn't want to give y'all a curb cut further south, I guess, on that parking lot.
That's right. So, to answer the question about the light pollution on that, the pricer itself has a very less luminance. And, the way it is that as closer you go to the pricer, it is much dimmer than the far away. And this usually is good for the day as well as night. And the light pollution, we are talking about the night time. And nighttime, the luminance becomes, and it has a sensor in it. So as the brighter the day is, the LED brightens up. As the darker the day is, the LED dims down.
It's not one constant. It just,
It has its sensor, it has all mechanism inside, so it adjusts with the daylight.
The sign will actually be perpendicular to the road. It won't be parallel to the road. So most of the light will be reflected north and south, not east and west.
That's right.
did you guys install, because I saw something similar, did you guys install the sign that is out on Hondo?
We installed one Billy and Devin. Billy, the Amigo, chili guy, we say chili guy, that we installed it. Devin, there is an Exxon, we installed it. There is another Exxon, there is another mobile in Devin we installed it.
I just happened to see one over in Honda, and they had kind of like the same concept. No? Okay. Thank you, sir. Council?
There we go. 8 feet.
Okay, make a motion for us to go ahead and accept on the 80 feet. Okay. Got a motion on the floor?
I'll second that.
Okay. Got a second? Any further discussion on that?
I would honestly ask the council to reconsider the height and think about 60 feet. We went around, Chief, Matt and I, got the heights today for various signs, you know, and the HEB sign is 60 feet, and they have no problem pulling people off the highway. And again, like I said the last meeting, we got a height on the American flag out there too at the car wash, and that's 75 feet. So, like I said previously, I kind of take exception to anything being taller than the American flag in the city. I would say anything below, you said 75 is the norm, right? I would say 70 feet.
Council?
I would ask council to reconsider.
What's the minimum we're asking for? Yeah, I thought you said 75 feet earlier.
When there is no obstruction on the highway, in this location, there is a curve obstruction, there's a dip. So, and 75 and 80 is basically, it's not that big of a change or distance. But the thing is, the way we calculate the height of the sign is also the amount of cabinets we are going to install there. So there is also IHOP, Exxon, when we stretch this on the width, it's better to be a little higher because then it's a ratio of how much width it is with the height, so that it's visible from the height.
It's up to you. You guys put the motion out, so you can keep it. Okay. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Okay. All those opposed? Nay. All right, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you for your time, and thank you for working with us based on your schedule. Appreciate it, sir. Okay, P, consider an act upon a proposal from TRC for replanning review for Sega CF property on E. Medina Street. For Josie, I'm sorry, Josie Garcia.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, the property did belong to, let's say before it belonged to her, so you're okay.
Is that why I was thinking?
Okay, Ms. Garcia is wanting to, divide that property she has on the Hannah Street. I don't know if any of y'all are familiar, the property we're talking about is what used to be, the Caraway property. It's, between Houston Street and Cottage Street. And she is wanting to divide it to where she can, get permission to put a double wide later on. And, our engineers have told her, her engineer and surveyor had sent up preliminary stuff to our engineer. And they were quoted $3,125 for reviewing that replat. And she has agreed to that, so that's what we're tonight. To approve that.
Mayor, I'll move that we approve the proposal from TRC for engineering services for 19253 to Hannah Street for an amount not to exceed $3,125.
Thank you. Got a second? Got a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed?
Thank you.
Okay.
Jim, if you'll tell your sister.
You're right
There you go.
There you go.
Awesome. All right. C, consider an act upon the proposal from TRC for replanning of Eddie Garcia's property at South Bend and South Greenhouse. Josie?
Okay, again, this property was replatted a few years ago when the lady was gonna divide the property between the three children. Well, the one daughter decided she wasn't gonna move down here, so, all of that was for naught. So then this gentleman came along and bought it a few years later, and now he's wanting to replat it back. to where that the lines are gonna be different. Anyway, everything's been sent to our engineers, just like the Garcia property. And again, the quote is $3,125 to review this street plat. And Mr. Garcia has agreed to pay that.
Mayor, I move that we approve the proposal from TRC for engineering services for the Denton, Pecans, vacate, re-subdivision plat for amount not to exceed $3,125.
Thank you.
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Same. There we go. Awesome. All right. I see somebody wearing a uniform back there is a little bit excited on the next one. Okay, D, consider and act upon the approval of proposed Eagle Scout project. Come on up, sir.
Sir.
Before you get started, just want to, council, just to let you know, great help. When we had our actual dumpsters out here collecting all the debris and everything extra. They were hanging out. Janice was out here too, helping us out. So thank you so much for doing that and helping our community. You're welcome. Appreciate that.
He was also a great help at our Easter egg hunt, hiding eggs.
Awesome. Go ahead, sir.
Good evening. I would like to talk about the removal of the live sort home shed. It's old, run down. I know that it's historical, but I think it would be nice to take out the shed, make a little perimeter around it, and something build it with granite and gravel, and plants on the side, seasonal plants, so it's nice and lively in the area. I was told it's supposed to be a park, but it doesn't really look like people go there much.
Is there anything in that shed now that's being used for any reason?
That I know, no, but
James, there's nothing in there. Once upon a time, there was a washer dryer in there. And was there a water heater in there? That's in the house, right? Water heater.
Last time I was over there was a bunch of wasps in there.
Yeah, when we first got it, there was a washer and dryer, and they
It's not
went ahead and
functional,
took
it's
that
being
out.
stored there.
Right. It should be empty right now, right? It's, that little shed that we kind of boarded up to keep it from falling over there. At the Gidley's house, yes, right next to the Gidley house.
So, Christopher, what do you plan on doing exactly?
I plan on, for my Ghost Star project, to take down the shed, hopefully get the funds to make a perimeter, with bricks or wood, fill it with granite or gravel, maybe place a bench on top, so people can come by, sit down, enjoy the area. There's food areas around that area, so they can come by, sit, and, some plants on the side to bring out green.
Would there be a plaque of any sort that this is an Eagle Scout project? Now, the reason I'm asking, I go walking around Castroville Regional Park occasionally, and Scouts, Eagle Scouts have done several, like balcony overlook wooden things with some benches, and there's a little plaque that says this was an Eagle Scout project. I just wanted to confirm with this.
I haven't discussed about making a plaque. I really didn't think about making a plaque for it.
If we approve this, would you consider doing that?
I would consider putting a plaque. But like,
Or should we be the ones to get in the plat?
Well, they just did some, you know,
Well, let me ask a question.
let's talk about that. There needs to be some recognition of you
It's gonna buy you a flat.
at that site.
But you said you're gonna put a bench, right? So there's places that actually, if they put a bench, you
Like
can
on the
put.
back of the bench, little square and brass plaque.
Now, I know Brian Mask had done something up, right, for, did you do something conceptual for the Gidley house?
No, not for that part, no.
That was the parking
That was
lot.
the
The parking
square
lot, but
thing.
There's nothing as far as conceptually what to do with the
figure it out.
Mhm.
Have you gone before the Eagle Project Review Board yet for this, or is this part of the process?
This is part of the process.
And do you have a volunteer sign up for this?
Not yet. I want to get this checked off first, and then I'll find someone that will take up.
Yeah, of course, a big part of those projects is you're running the show, right? And you get people to do work for you, so. I'm pretty bad at building stuff, but I can swing a sledgehammer. So, whenever you get that list, send it to the city, and maybe you can get some manpower for you to do it.
Have you worked up any cost estimates?
Not yet, but if this is approved, there will be a cost estimate that will be.
Okay.
That's part of your project, right? The fundraising that goes along with that?
Just to make council aware, we do have money set aside for the Gidley house, and about 5,000 in the budget right now. I don't know how much we use it, but we pay maintenance out of it, but
So, as representative for Christopher, not only as his scoutmaster, but also a parent, we had internally, as the troop discussed, a little bit of cost analysis. We were wanting to see if the city had funds set for improvement areas of that, especially if we were going to try to include a bench on his project. If his project was originally just the plot and the graveling and stuff, because crushed granite or gravel is kind of costly, we didn't know if we'd be able to also put a bench in. But as a troop, we've talked about potential fundraising, seeing if there were city funds for improvements, and then he was gonna look to speak with local businesses about potentially looking at maybe at cost rather than market price.
So one thing I do want to say is that the changes with the hot tax this year is we can't use historic restoration for that. So we do have money set aside that we definitely could help them with.
The other thing is we have a deed restriction.
we
We have a
do.
deed restriction in that deed from the Gideon family to the city. We have to get their approval to tear anything down for 25 years. Remember that garage that we tore down? To make
Yeah, we had to
sure-
get permission on that one. Yeah, well, we can definitely look into it then.
I think that they'll go along with it. That's not a problem, but we need to
Or
ask.
we run it, yeah.
We will run it and then we'll continue that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's it. And so, am I gonna make a motion?
Well, I move that we approve this. Christopher has some work he has to do yet. So I would say that we should approve this, and we will consider any request for funds as he proceeds with the budget.
If we make that contingent upon the Gidley family approval.
Contingent upon the given families.
I'll think that David, and I would think, $2,000.
Do we need to put a dollar amount on it? Matt, you said there were some funds available.
I mean, I give him
Should
a
we put
$5.
a dollar amount on it?
Well, we don't have the full 5 in there. I mean, we budgeted 5, but some of that's going towards maintenance. I know we're gonna have to put a new sports on there, because
We still have enough money to
Yeah,
apply
there's-
for historic restoration, if it would be qualified for historic restoration. That's what I have to ask.
I don't.
I don't know.
Why did we not
I mean,
get
we're not
that?
really restoring it.
Yeah.
We're, but, I mean, we are beautifying the city, so I think it would pass on the account level.
On the accountant level, we'll take a look as far as the mall goes.
Yeah, I think.
Well,
I
I'm just
think
saying, for
I
you to
think
turn it in
2,000
to
in there.
Austin.
I think you could probably pay more than that.
It won't even go that much, so
Yeah, I probably wouldn't, okay, not to exceed 2,000.
I'll second that. Yes, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Thanks.
Any opposed? Okay, there we go. Ready, Chris, for the next phase? All right, you got a little homework to do. Take care of stuff. We'll do that. Please get with Josie too, so we can go ahead and work out also talking to the family and getting information. Doing all that. Awesome. All right, E, consider an act upon approval of final plat for GUG subdivision or 3G subdivision located on South Somerset Street.
Okay, I'll have a copy of the minutes from last Monday's zoning commission meeting. They recommended the council approve it. This is the plat that we've discussed, a couple of other times, when they did the preliminary, and then also when they had asked for the variance on the lot sizes, because they're just under 6,000 square feet. So you have a copy of that pre-plat in front of you, and the commission did vote to recommend the council approve this plat.
What was the final decision on the driveways? I know last time.
Well, we kind of discussed that a little bit. I think they're all going to do individual ones, and they're going to try to use something like the neighbor has. You know, Ms. Collins has that deal where she has a way for her to back up and go out. Or rather than doing the circular
There's a
drive.
safety concern with backing out on Somerset Street. the
Right.
fire department.
So, Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what we discussed, right? That y'all were gonna
Yeah,
try to mimic.
we noticed that everybody had them the same way for Somerset Street, so we just figured we would go along with like everybody else is doing, to keep it
Kind of got
the
to
same.
turn around, the way they don't have to back up, they can go out.
Right, they'll go out front ways, but they'll back up into the.
Takes most of your front yard out.
Yeah, yeah, we understand that, but it would take more of you to make a loop. Yes,
Less mowing though, right?
there you go.
I just have one more question. Y'all look at the sidewalks at all along the property? Putting in sidewalks, I think the subdivision ordinance says, the sidewalks need to be put in with any new subdivision.
That would be,
For every house? Yeah, I saw it, for them, right now, it's just a flat. So whenever they come in for the building permit, then whatever requirements you have for that building permit, it will kick in. The driveway is one of them, sidewalks, if you require that. I don't know if you require it for each individual homeowner or a developer type. So it's a little different whenever.
It's a replat.
Probably be cheaper to pour all the concrete at once, so. I mean, my thought is, because Hester Street's unpaved right now, we need to take a good hard look at paving that in the near future as well, especially if you're gonna.
I think Somerset, would qualify. I don't know, if I remember correctly, it's been a while since we looked at, but, and on your ordinance, I think it talks about larger developments. And so in this particular case, if you have 3 separate owners that only have 1 lot, right, and they're gonna build their house, they build that 1 piece of sidewalk. And then is it a sidewalk going nowhere? I mean, only his house has a sidewalk, the other 2, so you have to look at that as the permits come in.
We did have a letter from our engineer saying that it did conform with the city code.
Stacy.
So Sam,
Yeah, and that's, but I think that if you look at the code, it does say when there's a subdivision, you have to consider the sidewalk. So that's, I agree with you, if it's an individual lot, that's one thing, but this is a subdivision. But that's what the code says.
Yeah, so at the time of the permitting.
Well, I know that a lot of residents along there said, hey, look, this is a busy street, we wanna be able to walk, we get sidewalks, so I think that's one of the streets that we're gonna be looking at in the near future. There's no time like the present to be making the city a little bit nicer place, and I like what, the young men are looking to do here. Good work.
Yes, so young, right?
yeah, that would be good.
Yeah,
that's the name, you're the supervisor.
All right. Anything else?
I move we approve this.
I got a motion on the floor for us to go ahead and approve the final plan.
I'll take so.
I think you heard Charles first.
Sam's just quiet. though.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
You need a little pleasure.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? There we go.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for coming over. Appreciate that.
Final,
All right.
Joe.
Doing good.
Wow.
Hey, yeah. Thanks, Joyce. Discuss and consider removal of existing BMS drainage piping to install over floodway in its place at Lakeshore Estates.
Yes, sir. No, easy.
Yeah, please come on over.
Okay, so I didn't know really how this began, but how all the. My name is Tracy Joyce. I live at the, in Lakeshore Estates at the westernmost end of Whitecap Drive, 16015 Whitecap Drive. And it was, neighborhood was annexed before we actually built the house there. And the existing drainage, well, I went and looked at it today. It's full of water. It doesn't drain. And it's been like that since it was installed. Question there was installed sort of in the middle of the night by the developer. So, separate story. But came home one day and found out that BMA is installing, I think it's 20-inch pipe into the existing BMA canal. And so walked over, took a look at it. So I just wanted to find out if anybody knew anything about it. We go to his Mr. McGrath, so I gave Mr. McGrath a call, and he gave me Brian Sullivan's number with BMA, right? So I visited with him, and immediately after visiting with you. And he had made comment that, I mean, his claim was that he had talked to at different times about a solution that would require removing the existing drainage and the piping that's going in, actually dropping it. In my industry, it's referred to as box sag. It's the placement of 445s to actually lower the pipe through an area. And in doing so, before the pipe is actually installed, which in this case would have to be uninstalled and built back, removing the existing drainage, if the drainage doesn't drain, and building that with his pipe, as I've described it, and creating more of a flowway or flow over or spillway, rather than the existing drainage that doesn't drain. In the initial conversation, I just probably there's something else that I learned. Whenever they were talking about in the field that's west of me, I don't know if it's still Henry Keller's or not. There were some oil wells they drilled over there. They were, as Brian Sullivan described, they were digging him a hole, which just not really building a tank or a pond, just allows them to gather backfill dirt to actually cover and plug the existing pipe. I asked them if they were going to fill it up to the very top. At the time, I wasn't sure. They were thinking they were going to shake down the existing berms and banks and use some of the existing dirt to fill in. And it'll still make it level, of course, but then lower it. Figured that might create a big problem for some other folks. So, but I went and looked today, and that doesn't appear to what they're doing. They are, all the way to the top. So, that said, I don't know, I don't really know how the process goes, but we flooded in 2010. Since then, we've been managing it, and there's not really been a move to correct the drainage on this city lot, my lot, where my home is. And so I'd like to find out how I can explore the opportunity to perhaps be able to follow through with Brian Sullivan's recommendation of building that sag in his line so that water can flow over that canal or that pipe canal rather than the puddle, giant, huge stagnant puddle that exists under it now. So I don't know how to move forward with that or find out what needs to be done to move forward with that, or what would be ideal to take the next steps, or what it takes.
Did you get a chance to talk?
I have talked to Brian just on that time. Like, he told me that they were like doing hiking. You know, I didn't live there.
Yeah, when I looked at it, they were covering a pipe, but they only went to that one gate, didn't they?
Yes, sir. They stopped there about, well, when I looked at it today, they were still running trucks in, and they had it backfilled about to where that drainage is. They were getting close, within about 100 feet. Probably,
You want to cut the canal there at that drainage, is that it?
Yes, sir. So where they're installing the piping now, what he's explaining is that he can build that pipe down.
The siphon?
Well, yes, sir.
Yeah.
And before doing that, of course, remove the existing drainage, build that pipe down. Explain that the pressure on that pipe is minimal, so being able to push water through is like 2 psi.
Yeah.
And so rather than have it flow over, rather than just under it and sit there, which is where it normally goes anyway, just for the record.
You live right there where
Into the cul-de-sac.
At the very end of the cul-de-sac, yep.
Right.
What used to be a giant, unfortunately, yellow house, which I would never say if my wife was here. It is now more subdued.
Okay, no one gets rid of
Like the building that you got under.
Yeah.
Northwest.
So am I able to add to what Trace is saying? So my name is Cindy Jacobs. Trace and I are neighbors. And I mean, we live across that Keller Field and they're actually filling in right beside our property. And I would just like to say in support, I also am very concerned about flooding. Where am I going?
That's.
Go up a little bit.
Is your house,
There you
I was
go.
worried about when you talked about shade.
This is your
I'm
house.
very worried about it.
Yes, sir, that's it. And then Mrs. Jacobs' house is to the west, across the canal.
Go ahead, move up.
No,
Move it up.
no, go the other way.
Other side, south.
Yep, travel south.
Just gonna-
This is what you're talking about. Oh, right in there, right?
Yes, sir, right there. That is right where that drainage is.
And right now they're laying the pipe right
Yes, sir.
here. Just so everybody have an idea.
So they are not.
And just
shading.
for record, I do live out of that subdivision, so everybody understands.
What's the issue though? Is it the volume of water that it can't drain out through the subdivision in a timely manner? I mean, is it?
Yeah, that's
It's
primarily.
basically from the fields from the north of y'all, right? On the
Yeah,
other
that's
side of
it. On the other
60,
side,
17,
on the north side of 617.
and then once it drains in, it just gets bottled up in the canal.
Right, well, it stops there, I mean, by the appearance of the drainage, it looks as though the idea is that it goes under the canal and then goes on, flows south and then back to the east and into the lakes or ponds. Right.
Okay, so move that up.
So who is doing this work?
BMA, yes, sir.
Yeah, they own the canal.
Okay, so if it works, it's still the same. Basically what happens is all that water actually ends up going through here. And then it goes into here and it goes into the lakes. And then there's a drainage ditch that goes there. There's two sources where the water flows inside that neighborhood. Go ahead and bring it back down. So the way it's built, this is the BMA canal. It's not a drainage canal, it's BMA. This right here is a drainage ditch that goes through. So some of the water goes this way, but some of the water actually goes here. It just depends on the amount that is going through there.
What happens is none of that water goes under. I mean, it just, I don't know, I couldn't preach about how to strike pressure or what pressure is required to actually make that drainage do anything. But given its height and the fact that there's actually, we shot it, there's no grade. There's no, when you have a drainage, you have to have a hot side and low side. So there's not.
So what you're saying is basically lower it here, the pipe, as they level it off and do it above ground across this way?
Yes, sir. And where that is across, where you can see kind of a lighter color on the Lakeshore Drive, it's already been, it's like whoever installed it had some idea that that's where water was gonna flow anyway. Because although the pipes come out on the south side of Lakeshore Drive right there, it is concreted in a dip right there. And whenever water does crest, it flows there. I mean, it comes across and over there anyway. That's, I mean, you can see by the drainage that's designed to flow into that portion of that westernmost pond anyway. You're just looking at it. So when it comes together there, as long as it's free to pass, and that is actually low enough to actually allow water pass and even in greater volumes continue down the drainage. You put it out, the drainage runs opposite side, well, not opposite side, the other side of the canal. Well, then it's allowed to go down. And it only makes sense that if that were to happen, then less volume would end up down at the east end of the neighborhood where other residents are having problems also.
Did you, when you talked to Brian, did you tell anything about that?
Oh, yeah, we talked about it. His comment was that, that he knew this project was coming. I have no idea for how long. I would figure the way projects are funded, it has probably been coming for a long time. I would figure, I mean, based on the way road projects go, that it happens over the course of years. And all of a sudden, somebody said, go, so my projects go also, go. And off we went. So I doubt that was ever communicated. You and I talked about it. I'm not confident that was communicated anywhere to the city of Lyle.
James, do you remember anything?
He talked to us like it'd been through. He was gonna have it finished by last year.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
That's what
And we didn't even know he started until you called me. I didn't even know he
And
started.
they had pipe going in and they were already hauling dirt in and they were moving.
So
Yeah, they've
We're
already
almost
got.
done with my entire width of my property.
So, and on that note,
You got pictures, Jack?
This is what it looks like when it gets a big rain down next to her house and my house.
well, that was when they made the comment that they could possibly try to, I would figure, since backfill costs were backfill costs, that they would take their own dirt and shade it in, and therefore bring down the level of the existing canal. That was honestly alarming right away, because that creates, I believe that creates more problems. So when we looked at it today, it doesn't appear they're doing that. They are leveling all the way across, because I would figure somebody was thinking through, I don't know, I'm making something speculating, but somebody was thinking through and realizing, okay, if all this water comes across, it washes across the old houses, and that's not the case. So,
Yeah, there's 2 points. Go ahead and go back to that area, Lynette. There's 2 points to consider for that neighborhood. Go ahead and go back. Okay, zoom out a little bit. Okay, keep going. Keep going to right there. Okay, bring it down. Go ahead. Okay, so the problem that we're actually having in that neighborhood is not only the water that is actually coming in through here, but it's the water that is coming through here. This is their canal. So what normally happens is when you get a lot of water, you end up with that water getting into this canal. And now you're pushing all that water through there. So even though it's a canal, not a drainage, you end up with all that water in there. So are you saying that they're actually covering this up? It's all covered?
yes, sir.
That portion of it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we shouldn't have any water coming in through here anymore.
Actually, you know what? I don't know how far back the pipe is going. I only know the pipe is going as far back as your house.
It's not going there, it's going to the next,
To the county?
gate, to the next gate.
So not to the county road?
No, it's going to the next DMA gate, which is just barely behind my
Oh,
property.
that's not very, yeah.
No, like right where your
Right here?
finger is, Ruben, keep going a little to your left, right there. Yeah, it stops right there.
That's where,
There's a
So there's water to the left of your finger right now, and then there's dirt to the right of your finger.
We need to shut it off here. If they're gonna lay pipe, it needs to go in, if you're gonna level it off right here. Because if not, you're gonna get all that water that comes in here. And that's the problem that you get. You get water to two different sources. So you get the drainage, and then you get the BMA canal. That's the reason why we get the two.
There's another gate on the other side of 67, further north.
okay.
Yeah, there, I mean, that thing's been flooded, I remember as a kid, that place has always had terrible things. So I will tell you that the council, was it last year, we started setting up what they call a drainage utility fund. And that's gonna enable us to address projects out there on Lake Shore, because historic, going way back, whenever Lake Shore came to be, the council at the time, they granted a variance out there. And that's what allowed the developer to go in there and cut corners. And that's what we're running into now. So we're trying to rectify the previous problem, right, and getting that water to drain out, so.
So, okay, so just so I got my mind around, was the variance allowed just to make sure the annexation could be complete?
No, sir, no, this was in the 90s. This was in the
Okay.
late 90s. This was,
Okay.
no one on the council was even on that time.
Okay.
It was,
Well, no, I'm not laying blame, I'm just.
Yeah, it was before the annexation. It was back when I was in high school still.
Okay, but then but,
So going back and fixing this, now,
Right.
of course, as it's gonna be built out, is a whole different set of problems. But,
Understood.
my big question, of course, is, if this gets done, how's that gonna impact people further south? They improve the flow of water, that water's gotta go somewhere.
right, well, normally it goes into west tank, the east tank, and then across 463. And then to the Carter property.
Right.
Is where to the south, yep.
Well, the problem that happens in that neighborhood is that normally the gate at the Carter's place would be shut down. So the water builds up on the BMA canal, and then once it builds up, it starts overflowing into Lakeshore Drive. So that's where that's the reason we can stop the water from getting in through their canal, not our drainage, but the actual canal. You will actually keep that water from coming in. But,
The drainage comes across from the north directly across 6710 and filters in the drainage. I mean, I know we got secondary in the canal itself.
Yeah.
It's always helpful if the canal doesn't have any water.
Go ahead and zoom out. Okay, go ahead and move over to the right. Okay, go up. Move it up. I'm sorry.
The other way, the other way.
The other way.
The other up.
Okay, and, okay, so what happens is, here's the end of the BMA canal that goes into Carter's Place. So what happens is they close it off in here. So the water, if any rainwater gets into the BMA canal, it'll build up, and once it hits here, it stops. Go ahead and bring it down. Move it down. There you go. Okay. So it stops. So you have the buildup of water in here, and once it gets built up and you have more water, it starts spilling here, 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 and here.
Okay.
But it's their canal that is causing that. So one of the things to do is to shut it off. But let's not get sidetracked. I think what you're asking right now is, can we do something about right here? Right? That's what you're
Right.
asking for?
Right, but it is, I mean, it's not always the water in the canal that's overflowing from the canal. I mean, historically, we've been benefiting from the canal not being full, so there could be some spillover into the canal itself. So it does have to do with drainage. It does have to do with the overflow drainage, location where we're getting rain, and how it's filling drainage. And we recognize that because we've seen that the drainage that exists, whenever all of the chaff and corn and husk and all that stuff come out of the field, they come and clog that drainage that was built very poorly by the developer. It clogs it. You then see that continue east down the drainage, not the canal, the drainage. And that's why also, which I really appreciate, because the drainage itself there's been a huge effort to clean it out. So there's less debris in it to get caught up in whatever and then continue to flow.
Yeah, James, they've gone out there and cleaned it up.
Yeah, it's been tremendous. And anytime I know, and previously, I mean, just to McGrath, whenever I've gone and I knew the rain was coming or whatever, I'd ask about cleaning out that grate, so at least it had initially somewhere to go to at least fill up that puddle, which it does, which he has, which I really appreciate. And it does.
So with them making that recommendation for this area, to go ahead and
Yes.
change that, did they give a cost? Did they?
Yeah, they haven't priced anything out. His cost me the hit was 20 to 30,000. And that was, and he just, I mean, he came up with that, and I don't know if he was giving thought to the fact that, with pipe going in now, that he would have to uninstall existing pipe and then, and build the box sag and then force it new. I think his window of cost that was offered was because we were just sitting there talking about, I've done similar sort of stuff. And, he talked about the difference between, your pouring concrete in place. So that similar to what's there across the road, it crosses the road rather than having pavement, and then also into the drainage and where the pipes are. So pouring concrete rather than having something like, like large diameter bull rock or like a riprap or something like that. Because in flood conditions, a lot of that stuff goes away, and you have bigger maintenance costs, that sort of thing. So your costs up front diminish your maintenance costs, obviously. Anything you don't know. So, I think you just kind of threw a big window in there of what it would take to be able to do something like that. Plus the removal itself. I mean, you have to go down below, pull everything up, haul it off, it'd be scrap cost. Long story, I don't know what all that costs. From his hip, not mine, it was 20 to 30K. His request was, his claim was that it's come up, and doubtful if they all of a sudden surprised all of us with this project. I won't personally try to say the negative, I just don't. I would figure out costs associated with doing that. That was his estimation.
How much?
20 to 30,000.
But that's redoing the whole thing.
That's redoing the whole thing. It was going in, pulling pipe up, pulling the current ridiculous drainage out, and then building my understanding, what we call a box sag, 445 is actually lower his pipeline in that area for a certain distance. I don't know what it would be, 50 feet, 100 feet, and then building concrete across there in a particular location.
Did he say that he would be willing to go ahead and do that while we figure out that area?
Oh, no, I didn't negotiate that far. I mean, if he's absorbing costs, I'm figuring he probably wants some sort of funding. I don't know how that, I mean, you have to teach me that. I don't know how that would work in negotiation. I mean, I would want, if I were doing it as a private contractor, not that I can't, but not professional, but I would want some sort of commitment, some sort of fees, to when this did get started. But, you know, that's all the conversation I had. And it, again, my concern too was where water was gonna, I mean, how the flow was gonna be directed. But that flow is, I mean, by its very design, you can see that it's designed to go there anyway. That was its purpose. It just doesn't work. So if the canal exists, I mean, not just in theory, but in application, if the canal remains at its existing height, but we have a flowway that goes directly where it's supposed to go, then we haven't created a greater issue. We've resolved several issues on everything, at least on the houses on that side, and then prevented an issue for the houses on this side.
Well, that's gonna be it.
Yeah, it's out of my district. My question is, BMA is doing this, BMA is paying for what they're doing right now, it's on their property. They own it now. Okay. So how do we get involved with that financially?
Well, the neighborhood was annexed before I built a house. They were city lots. Their drainage or lacking drainage or whatever they had in place was there whenever it was annexed. And so they're willing to make modifications, but to benefit annexed lots of the city wide. That was the explanation. I mean, that's how I got the balance of it out of the conversation.
Was it built, before we got annexed? With
The BMA canals were there before we annexed in 2006 and then 2011.
But, the developer,
Well, the developer did his own thing here.
Yeah, as far as existing drainage, I have comments that I couldn't deliver in this meeting about that.
I know we went back and forth with it
Estimation,
several
how
times.
close are they to being finished doing what they're doing right now?
Yeah, well, honestly, I don't know how far they're going down to now. So I hadn't seen piping continue down beyond about where we're talking about. But they were, I mean, I hadn't talked about doing about how much more piping is going.
Yeah, I'm thinking if we want to try to jump in and supplement to get the improvements we want, they have stopped doing what they're doing. We need engineering studies, I would guess, to do the build. We have to start building.
going to that, water, road, that little bridge, ain't going all the way. That's why.
Well, they're going through the whole neighborhood. Eventually, it's gonna be piped into the whole neighborhood. And that's their plan, is to put pipes, instead of pushing water through a canal, it's gonna be pushed through a pipe, and it's all the way through to connect. So it's literally, they're gonna lay a pipe all the way through the whole neighborhood. It's gonna go all the way from over here, all the way across. There's already pipe over here. They already laid this. So they would just be connecting right in there. So,
the question is, was solving the problem, or was it? I mean, you and I both know the Lido between, the land between Lido and Pecos, developers are eyeing that, building homes too.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, what happens whenever we have 5,000 homes we put in here? It's just like they had out in Houston, you get a big hit of rain, where the water gets going to drain south. Is that either gonna go to Lacoste or is it gonna go to Lido, it's gonna crest right there at the halfway point? So, I mean, my thing is, let's fix this now. That way, come 10, 20 years, this problem is not something that's much, much worse.
Well, Joseph, when was it, back in 2013, 2014, we talked about having a comprehensive drainage study done out there. And we'd asked for, last time I talked to Tracy from the community center.
Yep.
And we talked about the property access agreements that we had asked for back in 2013 and 2014. And I don't know whatever happened to that.
Never, a lot of the landowners wouldn't get permission to go on. But remember, that got started up about a year ago, Mr. Clouds was supposed to be getting those.
That's what I'm talking about. Last time, because Tracy was at that meeting, we were over at the community.
Right.
Right. I'll admit that some of my frustration with the request to do that study was that if my lot is an annexed lot and there are setbacks, and there's a place where I have to build my house. And because it's not like I'm building on 20 acres and I have to have a sensory park and I'll build it in a group. Then when it was annexed, it seems like there would have been, I don't know what that cost would be, but it seems like there would have been some questions asked of the developer. Asked of the developer to prove that this was, this is a sound neighborhood that didn't automatically include costs associated with immediate changes to make it, to maintain, to make a lot sound. So
Tom, you
that was
remember,
my.
you remember when the annex part came to be and we went round and round with the developer, he wanted to go with a smaller drain pipe, and our engineer would give in. And he said, no, he wanted it larger so it would drain better.
Well, Tracy's been involved in litigation with the developer.
Yeah.
So he's very, very familiar with the
with
problem,
it.
you know, so we've been trying to help, right? All we're asking is, we get property access agreements, so we can go out there and do the survey that we need to do, and take the corrective action that we need to do. Charles was alluding to a drainage easement fee, that we've got drainage utility fee, and then we can do, because, you know, Trace, as we all know, this is not the only problem out there. You know, you've got all the water coming across that you're talking about, and you got it coming down here where it washed out that big chunk of dirt, right?
Well, yeah, and as far as like our conversation in regards to drainage, when it stops at that drainage that does not work, all that water gets to rush down behind all those houses and down into the corner of the lot.
Right.
Into the corner of the neighborhood.
Right.
So
Wash the bridge out?
What, yes.
Yes.
And so, I mean, by design, where that flows is drained. You know, what you're talking about with the drainage study, I get it, it makes sense, measuring volume, that sort of thing, absolutely. If I myself need to knock on some doors and get some signatures, I'll be glad to do it. But this is finally, we're in the 12th year now. This is finally an indication of a solution.
Yeah.
For a problem I never expected when I built a house on the lot.
Right, I understand that, and that's very unfortunate about that deal, you know. But now we're looking at a comprehensive solution for the whole thing out there, and that's what we're seeking help for. And, you know, we pledged like $30,000 for an engineering study, and I'm sure that's gone up to probably $80,000 now. You know, just to study. And when we start messing with this water, we want to make sure that we're doing it correctly, so somebody else doesn't get to play that.
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood.
So as we work to some of that, to be able to do that, if we can, David or Sam or both of you. So I think what we need to do, I think the most critical thing, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I think we need to get with DMA and be able to do that dip.
Yeah.
So it gives us the flexibility to be able to figure out how we can actually fix it, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a critical thing, is get with Brian and say, okay, what can we do now to go ahead and get that U installed? We can't touch the rest of it yet, but at least have the opportunity, so in the future, if we do anything, we can do that. So is that something?
Reasonable, reasonable and reasonable. Both.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so, again, I live in that phase too, Jack and I do, and when it floods, when we get a lot of heavy rain, we are completely cut off. We can't get out. So that's another issue, because there's a lot of us who own homes over there, and I didn't live in the city when I moved in. We were annexed after I moved in. So I don't know if that makes a difference, but I would just like to say, as it is today, with the poor drainage that exists today, we're completely trapped in. I'm in the very back, right next to the canal.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I've been there, I've gone through the three big ones, I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've been out there, so I know exactly how the
I've
water.
followed across the water.
Yeah. And
I've
there's
seen them
been
all.
Some things that happen in the sense of being able, but I think we need to, the first step is to get that pipe laid the right way. So it gives us flexibility as we look at trying to get the signatures, we can go ahead and take the next step.
So you're talking about at least laying the pipe the right way, and not necessarily building of anything else, just making sure the pipe is.
Yeah, because we're gonna need to study it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
That's the middle ground that, yeah, that I get.
So that's my recommendation, council, in the sense, you guys wanna.
Well, the current drainage won't change, right? I mean, the fact is, I mean, the current drainage won't change. I mean, the current drainage is not, there's not a plan, there would not be a plan to change the drainage. It would simply be to, while they're installing the pipe, take the opportunity to build that sag. That way the option exists to, yeah, okay. That way the option exists to build something that might work.
So the board, the homeowner board was told that VMA is going right up to where you're talking about and stopping, and they don't know when they're gonna continue. But I don't think they
You
have to
commented
get
on-
approval from anybody to continue. I think when Sam worked the project with them, when he had our area, he should have more information and who to work with at VMA.
Well, it was Brian, we met with Brian last year.
Well, that's what I'm saying is,
And that's what he told us.
a lot of the people out there didn't live there when the original request for an engineering study was done. Like, we weren't even out there. But we do know that this is gonna drive a major flood all of Lake Shore. But phase 2 is gonna be impacted the largest amount because they already are at any. So they need city council's help to try to stop where they are to fix that. And if we need to go walk door to door to get signatures to help get an engineering study, then that's what we'll do. We just need to be told what we can do to help the council help us.
Mr. Smiles has been working
Yeah,
on
he's
that.
supposed to go and, had him out there, but
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion. I move that, we remove the existing VMA drainage piping to install flowway in place of Lake Shore States and enter into negotiations with VMA regarding costs. It's gonna cost some money, right?
Okay, a motion on the floor? Okay, got a second? Any further discussion on that? Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? So we can go ahead and get, you guys are gonna go ahead and get with the neighborhood, and we can go ahead and talk to PMA and make sure that we include James in those discussions too, so we kind of get an idea.
And just so I understand, this is just, okay, I understand.
Just the agenda item, because we can't, it's a bigger problem than just that,
Sure,
right?
it
So, I mean, we're gonna have to come back in future meetings and address it piecemeal or whole meal, whatever. I mean, we know that there's a problem, and once we get this drainage utility fund set up, we're gonna have a master drainage plan for citywide drainage projects. And I know that big ones are out there in Lake Shore. It's not just that one, it's the whole subdivision thing, because it was done incorrectly. You know, those previous councils, they granted those variances and they cut corners, and now y'all are, I mean, of course, we can't do anything about it, but we can work towards fixing the problem for y'all.
Well, that's what nice to do for all of us, because since my house has had water, in it, it's been 12 years, that's a win for it. But what Mr. Jay's talking about also, I'm in, as far as like going door to door, I'm in. Like, I would hope that sooner rather than later, I mean, I can knock on doors this weekend, not an issue. You can see some for what.
Mr. Clauser
Mr. Clauser has the,
got the forms and everything that we've been working on.
If you need more forms, I can apply it for you.
Okay. So, you know, I can email address you, you send me a Word document or PDF, and I'll print them myself.
Just work with the HOA. Go ahead and do it as a group project.
Mayor, if I can, it sounds like a great project once I get going over here at City Hall to help coordinate and be the one point of contact for the city. That seems to be our issue is we don't have that one central person to help coordinate this.
Tracy, you can get that?
I'm sorry.
Also get with Matt.
I'll get with you, Trace, and give you what I'm going to use as my city phone number.
Okay, all right, sounds good, thank you.
Take care of that. Okay. Got a few more minutes before we get to 8 o'clock. Usually we take a break right in between that. Council, you want to go ahead and keep going for one more? Okay. Let's go ahead and move on to G. Update on monitoring the Lido Somerset 25 mile per hour. speed
That
zone.
So I'll start, basically I'll brief you and then let Matt, we were looking at the data today. So here's where we are. It appears lowering the speed limit 25 miles an hour. The church has basically lowered the average speed on the street 5 miles an hour. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
So that appears to have worked, but the volume is still there. And Matt can actually do some of the numbers with you, but it's a lot of numbers, and he'll give you a little lowdown.
So from back in 2020, so from 6/20/20, 7/10/2021 days, it was a total vehicle count of 69,854. The average speed over the posted speed limit at the time was 32.64 miles an hour. The average speed on the car at that time was 20.99. We'll go to 4/8/21 to 4/12/21, 6 days. It was 15,115 cars. The average speed limit over the posted speed limit of 30 was 32.57. The average speed at that time was 21.57. Again, well under the posted speed limit. So the recent one, 4/12/22 to 4/25 was 14 days. Now this is when the underpass was shut down on 3175.
And 25-mile-an-hour speed.
And yeah, we reduced it now to 25. It was 35,107 cars. The average speed over the posted speed limit was 27.71. The average speed was 22.2. Then 4/25 to today, 5/9, 15 days, 38,387. The average speed over the speed limit was 27.61, and the average speed was 22.17. Again, showing this is not a speed. We reduced the speed by 5 miles an hour by lowering it 5. The majority of the cars are not speeding. There are some, of course, but that's on every C street. The issue is body.
Percentage of speeding was around, at the 25, it moved up
At the
to
25, it moved. So when it was 30, the percentage of cars speeding 0.14%, less than 1%. Now, because we've reduced it to 25, it is running at 2.4%.
And understand that 2 miles an hour over while it's speeding is not enforceable by us. I mean, we cannot write people tickets for going 27 and 25. We could, but I wouldn't feel like I probably wouldn't be here very long. I'm probably rightfully so.
Yeah, I was told if you stop you, give you a ticket for going under 5 miles over the speed limit. It's got danger.
Yeah.
True. But he feels.
Yeah, so that's a problem. So again, we've looked at this, we drive down the street every day. It's a volume issue. It is going to get worse before it gets better. We've talked about putting in a lot of speed humps, like 6 or 8, I think is what, to just make people want to go on a different street. Okay, that might work, but I still think you're still going to have that. You can't shut the street off because it's a major thoroughfare, which drastically affect people, emergency response, fire, police, EMS, people getting to school, people, I mean, it's just too much of a street. If you make it one way, I think you'll just have everybody making a circle. It's just, instead of people going this way, that just everybody be making a loop and going that way, same problem. At least you can see it that way.
What's the recommendation?
Well, I didn't know, I mean, that's like asking me how,
I don't know if it's
or something,
I mean,
I gotta go get this. I'll be right back.
So Richie,
Yes, ma'am.
when you put in all those speed humps, haven't you gotten a complaint from the people on North Prairie Street about how much noise going over those speed humps
I
makes?
mean, that's a possibility. Speed humps work in deterring people. Oh, Mary's gonna show you something interesting here.
So, first, I got this donated from Cassville. It was in a house, and somebody found it. It's a first edition to the Lytle Leader News, July the 14th, 1999. Neighborhoods fear for children's safety. Speed bumps, warning signs, extra patrols, and the answers race through the neighborhood behind HEB store. This has been going on since 1999.
And I can tell you, I was about 2 weeks after that, I became the police chief here. And that's so 22 years I know solve that problem. But the truth is, I can tell y'all, back then, what they're talking about back then is just 5% of what's happening over there today. It's not even close. Now, what is the answer? Speed humps would maybe deter some people, but here's the deal. You look at what's going on Benton City Road, you look at all these subdivisions, in town and out, and people are gonna go to HEB, they're gonna go to the fast food, we call that it's like a golden triangle, whatever we call it over there, it's a huge commercial area. Well, that's where the money comes from, it's a golden triangle. So what happens is, you know, you got a big convenience store going in. I'm sorry, is that wrong? Is that a bad word? It sounded good.
That's what I needed for
You know, we're thinking about Beaumont, you know, Orange.
I know,
Yeah.
Port Arthur. Yeah, there you go. I'm in with that. I don't know. I mean, and we don't know. We've talked, you know, we don't know. I mean, those houses are closer than like where Charles and I, we've looked at where our, like where we live, our front yards to the road, you know, I mean, our front doors to the road, you know, Prairie Street.
It's twice as close.
It's twice, the houses are, you know, much closer to that road,
It's the volume.
but the volume is the issue. And I mean, we could just fill it up with speed humps and maybe some people would go somewhere else. But I don't know of any way. I mean, if you shut it down, you're gonna move the traffic to another street and they're gonna want their street where it's not, you know, I've already got a lot of people, on Magnolia Street and Florence Street coming off of Prairie Street where people are avoiding these intersections. They come down there and they use those as thoroughfares because the intersection. So we've got a massive amount of traffic. We only have a small amount of city streets to funnel the people on. Somerset Street is, you know, as y'all know, is narrow. There's no shoulder. I mean, it's a bigger problem. It's kind of like the drainage problem. I mean, if you stop it right there, you're just going to plug this. You're just going to push it to another. So that's.
I don't think we can stop it, but we can look at options and things that we can do for this has been going on for a while. And we just need to take the best measures that we can, and after that, that's all we can.
We've lowered the speed limit, and that has lowered the speed on the road. But
I think the accident.
Yeah, the lady, I talked to a lady that lives in Somerset, told me, did y'all put speed bumps here?
I mean, pretty much everybody in town on most of these streets would just prefer, they just, really, and I've said this before, we have some different people here, but I can tell you, really what people want us to do is turn back the clock. And I would like that as well. I just answered an email from a lady complaining about traffic and everything, and how long it took her to get across town. Do you know that my wife, when she goes to Dollar General, will go to the Dollar General in Lacoste because it's quicker to go to that one in and out than it is to work your way across town? And I live behind the library. It may not actually be quicker, but it sure seems like it. So and that was just a few minutes. I answered an email from a lady while we were sitting here. So we will do whatever, but police presence is not, I mean, these are not people that are over there breaking the law. I mean, they do run stop signs and officers write citations. But, you know, I don't have an answer. We you know, best bet is speed humps. Speed humps.
Is there a temporary one-way thing to see how that would be? I mean, is there temporary speed bumps to see? Because my thought on the speed bumps is just going to be a noise. It's going to be a nuisance. But don't 6,000 times a day.
The speed humps, you put them in. I mean, you can always pull them out, but there's no way to temporarily put them in there. I mean, they are basically just a piece of rubber that you hammer down into the asphalt. So I mean, it's really just, but you have to put enough of them to deter people from going on that street.
And they're not cheap, and there's maintenance.
And
How much
I really think that, I really think residents were hands hearing that.
I think it's gonna get worse before it gets better.
Yeah, there is not a perfect answer. I mean, I'm afraid it's just like people all over, especially San Antonio. Look at all the growth. There's people all over that used to have nice, peaceful streets, and now right behind them, they built 5 subdivisions. There's 10,000 cars coming in front of their house every day. It's just what city on the grove. I mean, Calabria was, you know, I remember Calabria was out there. What's that way out there? Cow Hospital. You can barely see it because all the cows.
Just give us information, you know, in the sense of the cost.
Well, we had that.
We were thinking.
Well, I mean, a few years ago, it was what,
Last-
like 10,000?
last year was
updated
about-
cost.
yeah.
Just get it updated, bring it forward to the council,
That's
so
what
we can
y'all
go
wanna
ahead and
do.
look at it, well, for the council to consider, so we have an idea. And then, we can take it from there. Whose district is that now? You have the interim.
It's gonna be Mr. Rodriguez's mostly. You got one.
I've got my house,
section.
so I mean,
Yeah,
it's
right.
not for me.
Okay.
We got the bad card on that one,
Right.
sir.
Right, if we can get the alderman involved in that section, that'd be
Oh,
good.
boy, he's gonna get acclimated real quick.
Thank you for the data.
Now, real quick, before you go on speed speed bumps and humps. I was, up in San Antonio at a ball game or something. There was a street near school, a lot of traffic. They didn't have these, rubberized or whatever humps. They had actually raised up concrete.
Speed tables.
Platform, like a table, yeah. And, you know, you get up on it and then you drive and then you get down off it.
Well, we looked at the tables over there. The problem is all the driveways,
Yeah.
there's almost no way to fit the tables in there where people,
Yeah. Might cause problems.
yeah, being able to get in and out, because the driveways aren't, it's not a master plan community, so the driveways are all hit and miss. So when we looked at speed tables, that's why we
But I think
didn't.
if we put the speed humps, so many of it, same concept as speed tables. We're trying to, that's a pain to drive down the road. I'm tired of running those over. I'm just gonna go around this one.
Yeah, I'm just thinking cost, 2 speed tables opposed to 8 speed bumps. Okay.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you for all that information, appreciated that. And Richie, try to figure out, see what the next option is. Okay, it's 8:08 right now. You guys wanna go ahead and take a break? Good, okay. Let's go ahead and take a 10-minute break. Come on back, because we can show it's 8:08. 8, come back. 20 p.m. A little bit extra time. Okay, well, let's go ahead and move on. Let's go ahead and jump into H. Consider and act upon the issue of permits for a mobile home park at 19851 FM 3175 and 15216 Rodeo Drive. So in front of you, council, I went ahead and passed out. You should have copies of some of the permits. The reason that we're actually bringing it up, Josie, on this one is wanted to get an understanding based on these permits that were issued and the process that we have in place for review. What happened with these permits? Why were they actually issued back on the 28th of February?
Well, Mr. Harris came in to get a building permit. And way back in 1997, they had gotten the zoning for the mobile home park. And in addition to it, they had added some of the homes, but they hadn't added all of the paths. They stopped in between. Basically, that was just an addition to this.
Okay. Well, the permitting portion of it, based on the plans that were presented to us in the sense of meeting in April, right, which is a meeting for us to discuss what they're thinking about doing.
Right.
It's basically, it has to go through review, right? It has to go through the engineering process. We need to go ahead and review, make a determination of how it's going to be laid out and everything before you issue a permit.
Back when he did this, he had plans back then.
Yeah, when we had that meeting with you, we had plans then.
Okay, but even years ago.
Oh, yeah.
He got it rezoned.
When he bought the property, there was already a plat for the whole thing to be done.
I'm with you, but I'm just saying, even in the meeting, we discussed that it needed to be relooked at, in the sense it needs to go through the engineering, right? We talked about different variances.
So there was some issue, I think, when I said it in the meeting, we weren't at stages of issuing permits for anything. It still has to be reviewed by the fire marshal. I have seen zero of it, and the engineers are still providing
At
information.
the time that I issued the permits was way before we had that meeting.
Oh.
Right. And I issued them on the basis of what was done years ago in 97, and Mr. Harris, he had plans back in 97 for that.
It was already zoned for that when he bought it.
When he got it rezoned in 97, he had plans back then, and all this was grandfathered.
I think we have to have our engineers review it. I'm not saying in the sense of the code or anything, I'm just saying the process that we have built in.
Wasn't the engineer there that day?
What's that?
Wasn't the engineer there that day?
No, but that was after the fact.
No.
No, you remember,
We don't issue permits, Josie, unless we actually have gone through the different places to go ahead and get it authorized, to make sure that it has a good review all the way across. I'm not questioning that portion of it, but we have to go through the process. So when I found out that there was permits that were actually given out.
Yeah, and I told you at the council meeting, right after he got these permits, I announced it to the council during informational items. That, do you remember that, Mr. Cave? During informational items, I told the council that Mr. Harris had come in and gotten the permits for nearly 200 more lots that he was gonna add on. And I told you then that he got the zoning a long time before.
Well,
But I did make that.
So the zoning is gonna be a different discussion, and I would like, when the plans come forward, I would like you to go ahead and bring that forward, to go ahead and look at it. Remember the discussion that we had about mobile homes along Main Street many years ago? We looked at the maps and we looked at the zoning in the different areas. There were some differences compared to what you're saying on here, but we can deal with that later. The other portion of it on there, it says the contractor that is being done is Casey. Casey is not the one doing the work.
He's the one overseeing the work.
Yeah.
But
But
he was the contractor.
he's not the one doing, usually when we get stuff in there, we have an indication of this is saying that he's gonna go ahead and put the concrete pads. Normally we have, do you have the licenses for the people that are gonna be doing the work?
The concrete pads are not gonna have any thing in it to where it would require inspections or anything. They're simple permits. Concrete
Once
pads are
again,
totally different.
this needs to be reviewed by our city engineer. There's a set process for us to go through this, so we can make sure that we got everything covered up. You know, how are you gonna lay concrete pads if our engineer has still not determined, and the fire department hasn't determined how the roads are gonna be configured based on the access for the fire trucks?
Did we not discuss that day when the engineer was there and we were asking him and
So-
we showed him those pictures?
If I can check, it was discussed, but nothing has been formally approved. The fire marshal's office has not signed off on anything about roads, because there's issues, there's no cul-de-sacs. We still haven't seen anything on fire hydrants, anything that are requirements of the fire code. When this was done in 90 or whatever, our fire code didn't exist.
Yeah.
But just because something was maybe done then doesn't mean they're doing construction now. It has to conform to our fire code now, not our fire code from 1990.
Well, I believe we knew that, Matt.
Yeah.
When we left there, we said his engineers were going back to draw in the cul-de-sacs and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
That's for that day.
I agree, but none of it's been submitted to us for a formal review and a formal stamp of approval, is what I'm saying. There's
Okay.
just that process that has to occur. Yeah. I've got to do it. I mean, that's my only issue is we can't start construction until it's been formally stamped approved.
Be placed down until that is done.
Exactly.
Am I right?
Nothing can be done to that. I was confused as to why we were even on the agenda. Nobody said anything to me about it.
Well,
How did we get on the agenda?
we found out that these were issued.
Well, they were issued before we had that meeting, so those were issued in February.
I'm with you, ma'am, but the thing is, we should not be issuing building permits unless we've gone through the review, through all the key people in there. That's what it boils down to. We have to go through the review.
Well, that's, when we left that meeting that day, that we sat with y'all for about an hour or so, it was my understanding that was the next thing, and we're waiting on the engineers to get all that stuff finished. Because we're not their only job.
No,
Unfortunately.
I'm with you. We gotta go through the process.
Right.
And that's the reason why we have those meetings. So if you have questions, if anybody has questions, those meetings were put together so we could exchange information. And it's not only for development, it's for any business, for anything. That's why we actually set it up, any opportunity like that. But the issue is not that. The issue is that the permits were actually issued.
And those pads will be put down when those plans are approved.
But we shouldn't be issuing permits, Josie, before we actually got our city engineers. We got the key people like the fire marshal to go ahead and approve this.
Actually, state law says we have to issue them in 45 days, unless we give them a good reason why we can't.
But we didn't even go through the process of having the engineers involved before we issued this on the 28th of February. When did we meet?
We met on April 13th.
That's what I'm saying. Why
Oh, I
didn't
know,
we issue
and
this?
and Mayor, I announced it at the council meeting after the 28th. Under informational items, I told y'all that they had come in and got permits for 120 and 91 lots, and that he had gotten the zoning approved way back, and it's 97, and that he had started the addition to the trailer park at that time, but had not completed it. And now he'd come in and ask for the pass.
Once again, we had to get the review that people have before you issue these permits. Okay?
We
can't
can do
issue
that
permits.
because we haven't done a thing,
And
except
they're
to wait
not
on the
gonna do it until
engineers.
They get the plat approved.
We need to
And-
change our ordinance. Because I don't think there's a requirement in there.
Nobody's supposed to start any kind of construction, right, unless they get a permit.
They got a permit, but they haven't started the
But we shouldn't
construction.
issue a permit unless we actually went ahead and reviewed the plans. It's not one property, we're talking about multiple areas, so we're doing two different phases.
It's all together, it's contiguous, two pieces of property, it's contiguous. It was rezoned, from R1 to B2 back in
97, I believe.
1997, August the 11th, 1997. And I kind of understand why these permits were requested, because by requesting these permits, they become vested. We can't go back and we cannot rezone this property now. They've got the building permits and they've started the process. I understand what's going on.
No, I'm just saying, the process is built for us to go ahead and read. I mean, anytime you have any subdivision that is coming in here and looking, we don't issue the permits until we actually have our engineers review it, right?
Okay, except that Mr. Harris had plans back in 97 for all this.
Did you listen to what Matt just said a little while ago?
I understand that, but All that was done back in 97.
Okay,
You
can
know
I?
what I'm saying?
So, once
And,
again,
and he even started it and then stopped. I mean, he's got pads over there already as part of that second part. And he started back in 97.
Well, we established now that we have to do something next, so what's next?
you gotta go through the process.
Just get the plan submitted so they can go through the formal review. That's all. So we're lucky we're dealing with y'all because y'all aren't gonna start construction without having, we may not be as lucky the next time is all we're saying. Just a process we need to do.
Council Mayor.
I think part of the issue is the time span too, between 97 and now. Things change.
Of course
Like,
they do.
you know, fire ordinances and all. So I think what you're trying to say, that we're just a little bit hasty in issuing this without getting a little deeper into the weeds here. Where do we really start to expand this? So,
He's got a question.
Yes, sir.
Comment.
Mr. Mayor, is, other than, this, is there any other opposition to them putting that park out?
Once again, we gotta go through the process. We gotta look at everything. We gotta look at everything. So it's so important that we take our time, let our engineers, let our fire department, all the folks that are a part of that to go ahead and give us an idea. It'll go in front of the different bodies to go ahead and review.
Can you make up some list so when we leave here, we'll be done?
Yeah, well, Josie, do we have a checklist
On what?
on permitting?
On permitting, yeah.
Josie, Daddy asked what he wants a list of what we need to do so that we know what to do so we can get it done and we
Well,
don't keep just sitting around.
The thing we're doing right now after our meeting is your engineers are supposed to be getting something so we can give to our engineer.
Right,
And once the preliminary is approved,
right.
it goes to the zoning
There is-
commission and then the council. And then we go back through a final stage. And then it's when y'all are gonna start putting in the pads after everything's approved. Am
We
I
would
right?
not ever do that before that, ever.
Mr. Harris, you'll get a checklist. There's a checklist that was put together, and that's supposed to be an agreement between the city and the developer that knows exactly the steps that need to happen. So if you didn't get that, you should get that.
Okay, there's a reason why he didn't get a checklist. He only got permits for pads. Pads are not inspected.
Right.
Josie, this is a subdivision. You're putting multiple homes. You don't have, it's not one particular location.
They're putting several pads in, they're all probably gonna be identical, the same size, just like they were in the old park. And we've never had anybody, when they put a concrete patio out there, and they're asked, are you gonna put any building on it? Or any kind of weight on it, and when people say no, then our building inspector says it's a simple permit, there's no inspection needed. Now, if you're gonna be driving on it and putting a building on it, then everything changes then.
This is a subdivision. It needs to go through our engineers.
Well, I think they're concrete pads. That's where the houses are gonna be, right? So there is structure going on the concrete pads.
No.
And we're,
outside the front door where they sent their,
It's the porch.
oh, the porch. And but are the cars being parked on concrete pads?
They have parking spaces.
driveways.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
the driveways are gonna be concrete. So yes, there's things parking on the concrete.
But we still don't know how it's all gonna be laid out because we
we've
gotta
never
take
seen-
care of the
yeah.
streets, we gotta take care of, remember that discussion? So we need to get the plans through us, through the council, go ahead and get them approved before we actually start going down this road. Just to keep it within the process. So, Mr. Harris, you'll get a checklist, okay? You'll actually
Yes,
get a
sir.
checklist, be able to follow that.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, would it have any of, if you saw the original plans, the reason that they're not up to date, because until we had that meeting the other day, we didn't know what all we needed. But we have the original plans for that park, 3 acres of it has been sold to community out, you know, so that part is coming out, and we're redesigning it, that's what we got him for, to, you know, to make it up to date. As far as putting those pads in, you know, the only pads you put in is the base for the house, we quit putting concrete pads in a long time ago because one house might come in and the front door's here, and the next one's over here, you know? And, so everybody's just building those bench now.
Yes, sir.
And it's attractive. I mean, we've been in business, every proposal that left water and sewer line and gas line in the original park, I paid for it, when we put it in there. And it reverted back to the city. Every single one of them's got a meter for the house, just like, residents have. As far as a subdivision, that's a park, it's not a subdivision. That's a business that we put houses in and we take them out. There's no,
So we'll just follow the process, sir. So we'll follow the process. We're just gonna follow the process. So get the stuff through the key areas. We'll go ahead and go through the approval process. So get it in front of council. We'll get the information that Tom has. Did you say you already have where the council had voted in the sense of the rezoning?
right here.
Okay, so that will be included whenever it comes to council on there. Please take a look at the deed restrictions on that property too. Include all that in there.
There are no deed restrictions.
So go ahead and include anything that is out there, just to make sure with the council, but right now, the biggest thing is that we need to go ahead and get it through the engineers, okay? We need to get it through the fire department, to go ahead and take care of that.
One of the reasons that we're going through this is because the subdivision regulations do apply. They do apply. They're treated as a subdivision.
Where did that start at?
It's been some time back.
Even though we're not selling the land?
Can you get me a copy of that?
Yes, I'd be glad to.
Oh, you know, as long as we've been in business here, something since 1967, in that place, we've always tried to comply with whatever we need to.
Yeah.
And, it seems like there's something that they wanted to go in or something. Is that so?
Mr. Harris, I will tell you, I'm the fire marshal, and, you know, I've worked with you for many years. Y'all have done a tremendous asset to this community. So our role in it, just like what Matt said, is we actually we need those plans from the engineer to comply with it. And we don't, and on the fire marshal side, we don't care if you're building a skyscraper or a industrial incinerator. I mean, as long as it complies with the ordinances. But that's the issue, is we've got some places in town where people have dead-end roads, and we can't get fire trucks and emergency vehicles in there. So that's our role, but we have to have something from the engineer showing us that, and our engineer looks at it from the city side.
Yeah.
But I don't think anybody, I mean, I'll tell you personally, I think it'd be an asset to the community. Anything you do, everything you do, so you turn to gold. Maybe put me in your wheel, and let me throw that in there. But anyway, we appreciate all you have done to work for us. I don't want you to think that, you know, we think
Well,
that.
And Richie, we would not start putting that stuff in until everything was ready. But when we left that meeting, the engineers are still working on it. We're not their only customer. So y'all will for sure have it as soon as we get it.
Do you have anything that you can tell them?
Okay.
We'll just
No,
go
but
through
we're
the process.
changing it up.
Just go through the process.
Got it.
Very well. I'll be good. Yeah, they'll take care of that. Council, anything? Okay. Yeah, I need a motion in sense of something with that
I
consideration.
move that we table this until the process runs its course and all the paperwork is submitted and we can review it.
Okay. Got a motion on the floor? Okay, got a second? Any further discussion?
So what does this do with the existing permits that have been issued? And that was,
Well, they're not doing anything until they get this. They had original plans back in 97 and they started on them.
yeah, the ones that were issued February 28th, right? That's what
Yeah.
we're talking about tonight.
No, yeah, and that was for the original plan.
Yeah.
And the only reason that there's less lots in there now is because they sold 3 acres to the Camino Real. And so they're going through the process of doing it again. But there were plans to the mobile park that were approved back in the late 90s when it was rezoned.
So
And he started on
as
it.
far as these permits, I mean, they're still valid, right? They're still good? That's my question.
And
Yes.
yes, I would say that they are. And
That's all I wanted to
they're gonna
know.
hold off on them until the new plat is
Right,
finished.
we don't need to refund money and reissue permits.
No, because the,
Permit's good for 12 months. And they got it in February.
And they're gonna wait until the new plans are approved. Because the original plan from the nineties did change when they sold those 3 acres to, you know, now, which lessened the amount of lots that they're gonna put in.
I know, I heard an interesting story, Mr. Harris, from, who was it? Gary Oliver.
You're gonna have to tell me because he
Yeah.
doesn't hear well, so.
Gary Oliver, he told me that whenever, your dad put in the original park, that he went out there and did it all by hand himself, most of it.
Gary Oliver?
Yeah, Elaine Turnbow's,
Oh, yeah,
yeah, husband.
Yeah.
So,
They lived there for a while.
I'm just making sure that your dad's not going out there and start digging trenches and stuff.
That's why we have him.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that stuff no more. We did a lot of that stuff too. And we have some fine residents. We have Josie and we have Mr., the other policeman, James.
We also have.
Yeah, we got some deputy sheriffs there too.
But, you know, all we want to know is, are we working against the headwind, or all we need to do is respond to whatever you go?
We just need to go through the process, Mr. Harris.
Okay.
Gotta go through the process,
We
that's the
do
whole
it.
thing. We just need to do that. Okay, anything else for discussion? Okay, all those in favor for us to go ahead and table until the process runs its course? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you, appreciate that. All right. Thank you for coming in, appreciate it. Thank you. All right, consider it and act upon advertising for vacant utility clerk position. Josie?
Yes, you know, at the last meeting, we had Laura's resignation that was accepted. So I need permission to advertise for that position.
Mayor, I move that we advertise for the vacant utility clerk position.
Second.
Motion second. Discussion portion.
What, Liza, what is her job title?
She's a tax permit, building permit. Tax and permit clerk is what is her title.
Okay.
She's gonna be doing building permits and taxes and utilities, but this other one is the utilities.
That's where you sit.
And she gave her notice to her employer. So she could get her own.
Okay. So, about how amount are you looking at, Josie, or is that, do you have information? Scott, will see you later.
It'll depend on her qualifications and, you know, how much training. With Liza, we got lucky in that she's got a lot of this knowledge of this already, with working retail. It'll depend on her skills.
What's the range you're looking at?
I would say she'd probably start around, depending on if she's totally new to it, probably around 13 an hour, or she could start at 15 an hour if she got more.
Anything else on that? All those in favor? Opposed? There you go, Josie. All right, Jay, consider and act upon the city's emergency management plan. So you pass this down, that. Pass that down on there. Let everybody go ahead and take an opportunity. Got one for Tom, should have something for you. I'll give you a chance to go ahead and read that. Okay, so based on that, Tom, question I have is back on April the 28th, I'm sorry, the 28th of March. We went ahead and said, thumbs up, go ahead and do it. You were gonna forward information to them so they could go ahead and do that.
5-0 vote, Mayor. The council approved.
I know, but this is an email that is dated the 2nd of May, so I'm wondering what happened between the 28th of March to the 2nd of May that the person that we had selected didn't get the information.
She had talked to me about it one time, I told her I was working on it, the contract had been approved by the council, and that was it. Why she decided to back out, I have no idea.
Well, we were supposed to get it back to her, right?
Oh, yes, that's correct.
So why didn't we get it back to her from the end of
Well,
March to the beginning of May?
We just didn't do it, the council had already approved it.
My question
There's
is,
already a contract there, the council approved it, is that correct?
yeah, but you were supposed to make some modifications and you,
It was a lot of typo stuff in it that was supposed to be cleaned up, and we've done that.
so why
Now,
didn't
let me
you
ask you
forward?
something, is she going to sign the contract now, or does she not want to do it?
She already said that she's willing to do it, but she was frustrated because she was told that she would be getting the information and she never got the information.
So she knew what was going to be in the contract.
But Tom, we were supposed to get it back to her.
Mayor, she knew what was supposed to be in the contract.
Tom, we were supposed to get it back to her.
We can go on all night long, she knew what was supposed to be in the contract.
It needs to get taken care of.
We're ready.
Did you already forward it to her?
She said she didn't want to do it.
So you
Is this
stopped,
what- is
so you
this what-
stopped on the 2nd of May?
Is this what it says, Mayor? She said she didn't want to do it. Why was I supposed to forward anything to her when she said she didn't want to do it?
Okay, so, we need to forward the information to her.
Are you ready to sign it? We have it ready.
Go ahead and bring,
It's right here.
let's go ahead and take care of it.
Does she want to do it? This says she doesn't want to do it. Are you sure she wants to do it?
Yes, I already talked to her.
So she talked to you about it?
She sure did.
So, all right.
Has she reviewed what changes you were making?
What did I say, Mayor? I didn't send it back to her because she said she didn't want to do it. The changes that we talked about doing in council were made.
Okay, so let me go ahead and get with this. I'll go ahead and review it. I'll get with her. And then we'll go ahead and get it signed and taken care of. Okay?
Please,
So I appreciate it.
you're welcome.
I move that we take no action on this item.
Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Okay, update on the traffic impact analysis ordinance. Josie,
Yes,
on 28th of March, we actually went ahead and approved this by council for us to go ahead and take care of it.
yes, sir.
Where are we at with that?
Okay, I was supposed to get requests for proposals, and that's when the bottom fell out, and I was given an election to get together, so between the election that I was given to put together and shortage of staff was still too short. I have not done that yet. As I told you last week, I had.
So we had a meeting that was put together by Charles. We made with
I was at that
Kimberly
meeting.
right? We went through that. I think out of that meeting and the discussion that we had on the 28th, we said that this was a high priority because we wanted to make sure that we took care of this. So we would have something that would require our developers to go ahead and look into the traffic counts. Is that correct? I mean, who was in the meeting in there?
I was there.
You were there, but I want to ask the council, right?
Well, Mayor, do you want me to be here 24/7 because I'm.
No, ma'am, I'm just saying, we had something, we said it was critical, it needed to get done. So we haven't done anything from the 28th of March.
I've been trying to get to it, and it's just with everything that got dumped on at the last minute with me having to do the election and still being too damn short.
You have an assistant.
I do have an assistant. That assistant is working in front right now since the.
Did we get an email from Devin recently talking about the cost of this will be below $50,000 that require $50,000 require going out for bids?
Really, Dave, what you need to do is, when you made the motion to do this, we talked about going out for requests for qualifications.
Right.
And that's what you need to do. That's what the professional procurement statute says. You need to find the engineering firm that's best qualified, and then you can negotiate with them on the price on the project. So you need to get you do need to get the request for qualifications out.
Okay.
It's got nothing to do with the 50,000, because professional services, that's the bid that you have to go out for competitive bids. I mean, that's statutory, you have to go out for competitive bids. But professional services is not under that statute.
Just so the council is aware, not just the election and not just being down too short, but up until just this month, I have also been doing accounts payable and payroll because we were getting ready for that audit. So it's been everything. I know what I've got to do. I've got a list of what I got to do, but there are things that we got to keep the city going day to day. And I was helping Lynette trying to get ready for that audit, doing accounts payable. She did accounts payable for the first time on this meeting, and we're going to start on payroll next week. She hasn't done payroll yet, so I've been doing all of that on top of that. Not to mention taking work home and coming up here on weekends and staying during lunch hours. So
I'm with you, Josie, and some of us up here are not getting any kind of pay, and we're taking on responsibilities to kind of keep things moving along. So, all I gotta say is, this is, out of that meeting and what we asked, we said this is a high priority because we're worried about developers and the impact it has in a certain area if we don't get this in as an ordinance, right? We said we were gonna separate this from the other item that Charles recommended, and we're gonna treat this completely separate so we can go ahead and get this done as quickly as possible.
We don't miss out.
Is that correct?
Right.
I'm with you there.
So
I need more hours in the day.
we need to take care of this. I mean, this was a high priority. We talked about it in the meeting before the 28th of March, and here we are on the 2nd of May, and we still haven't taken care of it. And it's not good for the city if we don't take care of this, because we might end up putting ourselves in a pickle based on that. L, let's go ahead and move on, council. L, consider and act upon the city administrator's job description and ordinance. Tom?
Well, we got the ordinance, you guys can take a look at that. And then, in getting ready on the job description, we've got quite a bit, well, we've got overlap on the city secretary's duties and the director of finance duties, and now the proposed duties of the city administrator. So my suggestion is you go ahead and pass the ordinance creating the office, and then you can sit down with the people where there's conflict, the financial director, the city administrator, and the city secretary, and figure out what it is you want them to do. And I've provided you copies of the ordinance setting out the job description for the city secretary. Provided you the state statute showing the main thing, in my opinion, on the state statute is she's the accountant for the city. And, you know, she can, and if you look at the financial director, we said that the financial director needs to work in conjunction with the city secretary and all that financial stuff. So, the job description, I've made notes on there, we've got some overlap.
If you scream, I'll come check on you.
Where you want to assign those duties. So, I would recommend that you have a workshop and talk about it. And talk with these people, you know, talk with them and see what it is that you want to do.
No, I agree with that, and it would be also, I think, include the assistant city secretary, because hers would be tied with the city secretary. So, absolutely, bear in mind, you know, going to be out of pocket for faster.
Yep, let's get together, let's get over the department heads.
No, I agree. My only question, Mr. Cade, is there any law or statute about us putting a person in position if we don't have a finalized job description?
Oh, yeah,
Ordinance covers.
Yes, the ordinance covers, yes. I mean, you can verbally, I mean, it's good to have a job description so they know what the duties are.
Sure.
Right? And that's why we have job descriptions. you can tell Matt what he needs to do verbally, and he needs to do it. It's just like any other employee.
Right. I agree, that we need to have a power line just to straighten out, to finalize all the job descriptions involved.
And David, you're gonna have to, on the city secretary, that's an ordinance, so you're gonna have to amend your ordinance, you're going to assign some of these duties to the other.
Right, and I'm aware of the state statute too on responsibilities of the city secretary. So we need to make sure she does at least those things required by statute. Other stuff that we've pushed on her over the years because there was no one else to do it, that's what we need to figure out who will take care of it.
That's correct.
I got it. So our main interest tonight is approving the ordinance.
Yes.
So that Matt can actually come on board on the 19th before our next meeting.
Yes.
Right.
Can I get a motion for us to go ahead and accept the ordinance?
I move that we accept the ordinance to establish the position of city administrator as presented.
Discussion? Do you want to include anything about setting up workshop?
Can I make a separate motion on that? I know it's tied into one job description and ordinance. Yeah, and let me amend that before we go further. That we'll establish, we'll have a workshop to finalize the job descriptions for all people impacted by this ordinance. Okay.
Any second? Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Appreciate it, Tom. Okay, M, consider an act upon establishing a pet poop ordinance. That one, I put it on there. I know Santi has been back and forth trying to figure it out. Tom, this is the one that you produced?
This is the one we produced.
Okay. And this is something that another community is actually using?
Yes.
Okay.
With a few modifications, so.
Okay.
But this will allow, or make it mandatory that people scoop their pets' poop. Bag it, scoop it, however you want to pick it up.
Good. Good, good. It's happening in different parts of town, and I've been getting complaints around the different school areas too. So, and I know Santi tried to resolve, he intervened in a few
I
places.
spoke to the lady that was doing it with her dog. She said she picks it up every time he goes out, but there's also, I don't know what other animals go out there, but she picks those up too, so I'm not too sure if it's just her or she's saying she's picking it up, but not, so I'm not too sure.
Down the street or what?
In the grass area by the sidewalk on Cottage.
It's where the kids.
That's where I see it, that's where they get complaints from.
We have a neighbor, she has a dog, and her parents, they walk the dog and they carry it back. They're real good about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so who's gonna enforce this, Richie?
Yep. I mean, to enforce it, I guess you'd have to watch the dog poop to identify the dog and then make sure the owner didn't pick it up and,
Not the owner, the person who has control of the dog.
or who has control.
Yeah,
And how long do they have to pick it up, Tom?
like that,
Instant?
instant.
Blush, I mean, I'm glad I'm going
Are we
to
gonna
another
be-
department. I don't have to worry about
Are we
watching
gonna be
dogs poop.
required to do DNA testing to link that back to that dog?
Well, we can modify it to require that.
I mean, the intent's there. I just don't know how enforceable it's ever gonna
That
be.
it's there, and it'll just bring the,
Yeah, I mean,
the importance that goes along with
Yeah.
that. Because it is happening in different parts of the city, I can tell you that. Some of these places are in the morning, people just let the dogs out, and they wander around the neighborhood, and then they come back.
Yes.
Immediately.
immediately.
So it's quicker than that.
Let me just ask, and this is a personal thing, I have two neighbors who have dogs, they can't keep the dogs in, and dogs don't like pooping in their own yard, they mow our yard,
There's another.
front and back, and they do their thing, and it's all over our front yard, so this ordinance.
I don't know that would.
Well, it talks about the second section. An owner, a person who has control of the dog commits an offense if he permits or by insufficient control allows an animal to enter or remain on private property not his own. So that'd be your yard, David.
Okay, so what do I do about that? If this ordinance goes into effect, and I'm just curious, what do I do? Who do I call?
Animal control.
Okay, and then he comes and inspects it?
Yes.
So he comes in and
If you saw the dog doing it.
He makes an incident report, you tell him what you saw, and then somebody can write a citation. You tell him, I've seen that dog before, it lives over here.
I want it passed.
You make a motion?
I make the motion, we pass this ordinance.
Okay, got a motion on the floor.
I get a copy.
Who wants a copy?
Okay, any further discussion?
There's a big fine, $500, we go up to $2,000.
Okay, any further discussion?
Who was the second?
Okay. All right. All right, if there's no further discussion, all those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, thank you so much, appreciate that. All right, and update on vandalism in John Locke Municipal Park. We would like to, Josie, PD.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk a little bit.
So,
Chief never talks a little bit,
I'll talk a
just so y'all
little bit.
know.
I ain't gonna take much to top the dog poop ordinance. So we've been here many years and we've always had vandalism on and off as a park. It normally goes away after people doing it realize it's pretty, just doesn't amount to much. Graffiti, we paint over, we go on down the road. We don't, Public Works does, now it's park out. The last 2 months, is that about what we're looking at, about 2 months? We've seen a lot of vandalism, primarily men's room, concession stand restrooms at the park. We had a camera system installed, we did, the city did, number of years, anyway, now it's not operational. We have instituted several, since last week we had a meeting that we probably should have had about a month before that. We're learning as we go. We met with a park person who we realized his hours were not what we thought his hours were that he worked. And so we have adjusted some things with different hours and with our staff, to hopefully address it. And since we've done that, we haven't had, what's it been, a little shy of a week, I guess.
We had one incident this weekend, but it wasn't.
Was it in the restroom?
Yeah, it wasn't anything,
Oh.
but they took the changing station, they put that down, and they just emptied the garbage on there.
So,
They didn't tear it off the wall, at least like it had done before.
so without going into operational, what we're actually doing, because that might allow someone smart up here on YouTube, which is about anybody, to know what we're trying to do. I prefer not to go into exactly in open session to what our operational plans are happening.
Did you see the court too? The graffiti on the courts and gang sign or whatever?
No, did you call it in to somebody?
No, I saw it Saturday. I took my son to the.
And that might have been the same time they hit the same graffiti at the bathroom.
One of the basketball courts.
So I don't know. I mean, I don't know without, so we've been doing some foot patrols. Matt and I were through there today. It's, we have several things we can do. We need to get the limbs trimmed up over there, okay? We were tracking a kid today in broad daylight, and he disappeared behind limbs that are too low. We need to get those limbs up where we can look in there. We get those limbs up where an officer tonight's got a high-powered spotlight, he can see what's out there. So that's an operational thing we can do that'll make it.
Climb the tree?
No, he's just, the tree limbs are so low, he was just able to walk behind them and we lost him for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's the real
There-
deal. But
Keep any rabbit
regardless, that's one thing we can do, so, and I just thought, we talked about that today, and I'm throwing it up right now. Simple deal, just trim us some limbs. We know this is happening during the day, we believe, between, I think we returned probably about 3:30 and 7 is when it's happening. So we have responded to that, we're hoping it'll, again,
That's the most recent stuff that's happening.
yeah, but we think that's when all that pretty much, from what talking to them, that's when they think it's all within that time frame.
We doing it now?
I was told that the fountains and a few other things, remember that actually happened during regular daytime.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
So, it's, see, okay, let's go back a little further. Before we redid the park in 2015, we could drive through there. So the police drove through there. So part of your routine daily operation, you would drive through the park slowly, wave at everybody. It's not the safest thing in the world, but it allowed us to patrol easily. The way the park is designed, anyone that's watching, they see the police car pulling any of the parking lots, they've got not seconds, they've got minutes to disband or do whatever. So it's not a perfect environment, And when we redid the park, as I said before, maybe I didn't say here, we have not designed, that restroom was not designed with commercial grade, anti-graffiti, anti-vandalism stuff like you find in like a roadside park or somewhere. It's more expensive, but it's almost impossible for people to destroy. So, and now we're paying that price for not spending the more money back then, getting that properly designed equipment for what it is, a park, a public park. It's not a public park serving our community. It's a public park that's also might as well be the Southwest Bear County Park System, because there are no county parks over here. Thousands of people live in this area, and there are no Medina County parks. We are a tri-county park for all these people. When they say people that live 3 miles away, when they say they're gonna do something at the city park, they're talking about the city park in Lyle, Texas, 5 miles away. So, I'll entertain any questions on that particularly. Matt, did I miss something, you think? If there's some question in particular, again, problem where we take the blame, and it gets, Wayne, all of us, this is when this, after the first couple, 3 times, we should have got a meeting quick together and developed a plan, but because of it always normally just stopping, we just relied on that. And unfortunately, things are changing. It's not the same community it was 15, 20 years ago. So we're gonna have to stay on top of that better and develop, know exactly, hey, this is when it's happening. This is when it's happening, that's when we need to respond. Because I was throwing resources at times when it wasn't happening, and that was my fault.
I guess Richie, and I've learned this just from my kids, that parents who work tell their kids, go to the park till.
We'll pick you up, yes.
That's the holding area.
The juvenile we talked to today, same thing he told Matt. He said, parents are gonna pick him up over there.
Right.
So that's something, and that will only grow as our community
But it
grows.
also gives you a more defined
Yes.
window when you're gonna have a high volume of
Yes, sir.
kids who are bored with nothing to do.
And that's what we learned just in the last week or two. That's what we learned in the last week or two. Well, I talked to Wayne, and Wayne's been real good now, about calling me when he's there and when he's leaving, so we coordinate getting some coverage, and making sure, of course, it's, there's a lot going on. If you followed our call volume at the police department, last 3 weeks, our body's been way up. We've had, pursuits coming in, we've got officers involved in pursuits, so there's a lot going on. But we're gonna work to keep some higher presence of it. Then we're gonna reevaluate in the summer once we lose that school trend briefly and see if we need to. We're gonna have to hit it quick, reevaluate, and maybe redeploy to different timeframes.
Should you see who comes in?
And then at some point in time, the next thing we need to do is look at professional grade surveillance cameras for the park. Now, if we were having people being robbed over there, people being assaulted over there, cars being broke into, we're not seeing that, right? I mean, I think during Frenchie Burke, there were 10,000 people there. We had 2 cars, not Frenchie Burke, during Gay Garcia's deal, we had 2 cars broke into out of probably 5,000 cars, maybe more. And those are people that the purse is there. So occasionally we have a car get broken into over there. Somebody leaves a purse out. But so if we were having those kind of crimes and crimes against people, then, we would already be saying we need to get cameras. But right now, our crimes are pretty much limited to property crimes, misdemeanor level property crimes, that are common in, most parks. San Antonio has about 150 officers. All they do is work the city parks. That's what they do. Few on the Riverwalk, but mostly it's the city parks. Because nowadays, it's where people accumulate. And now we're going to see a lot more of that here.
Chief, what's a temporary solution that, you talk about professional surveillance cameras, what about game cameras that we can use for the short term?
We've got experience with those, and we've had successful use with them. We've used them successfully. I won't say where, because I don't want to, again, operational security reasons, but there's a lot of options. With games, game cameras and that. We can look at that. I think right this moment, again, the problem is the restrooms, the stuff is happening, and before we did have some cameras working, the crimes occurred inside the restroom, you cannot put cameras in the restrooms, you're not supposed to. It's kind of creepy and illegal, but I know people do stuff like that, but that's not us. So yes, the problem is you can see a kid walk in the restroom and you can have them on game cam, but you're gonna have to really, if there's 8 kids go in there, how you gonna know which one? So it's gonna be challenging.
So, I'm just looking on Amazon right here, they got a game camera that sends its cell phone $250.
We got
Ours,
cheaper.
yeah, ours is cheaper.
About 120 a year you pay. So there's a lot we can do. We can look at that. I need to get that. Of course, the problem with that is we put it all on our phones, and we got so many notifications all the time. So you have to do it and put it where you had somebody working. It's just, that's where you start getting the problem is unless we could put it on just one phone and have an on-duty person carrying that phone, or something. We might have to look at something like that.
Sounds like city administrator.
You ought to be.
I could call 911 really quick. I know the number.
We need an office for them, don't we?
Put it over at the park.
I think Wayne would like it.
Greenery is healthy, it's good for you.
There you go.
I'm sorry, any questions? I mean, get off, there's a lot to it. There's a lot to it. There's a lot going on. And I'm just glad that we're talking about criminal mischief and we're not dealing with people being assaulted and that type of stuff.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, we'll consider next upon having portable toilets at John Rock Park. So one of the meetings that we actually had, we had a discussion about having some opportunities to make it a little bit easier, not only for safety or for security reasons, but also we do have some hours where somebody can go to the park to use it and our restrooms might not be open. So we threw it out there in the sense of maybe having a portable toilet that would be accessible, be able to use it. So those times that maybe they're shut down, they would be. Josie, did you get the cost per month?
$107.50, and they clean it weekly.
So it'd be $400 a year.
Lock
The restrooms at the park are locked at sundown. They're open at dusk and closed at sundown.
what time?
So right now, close to 8 o'clock.
No, I mean in the morning.
In the morning, Wayne has been over there pretty early, before 7.
Oh,
We do have some folks that are out there pretty early too. It just gives flexibility in case for some reason we have to shut them down or something happens in the restrooms where we can't use them. Another instance, there's always a backup.
how many are we talking about putting in for?
I recommended just putting one for now and just trying it out and see how the usage is.
You have women and walking, right?
If you guys want designated, you could put a porta potty, I mean.
Do they allow you to, I mean, I know some places I've been, they will designate a men's and a women's portable toilet. And, you know, be honest with you, having, you know, 2 daughters, wife, and, you know, I mean, I think if you're gonna put that little amount of money, put 2 over there, at least try to designate one as a men's and one as a.
So, I mean, we have this issue with vandalism. I see this as an opportunity for these vandals to be knocking this porta potty over.
That happens already.
That's something that I can just see happening. It sounds to me like it's teenagers doing it, and the buddy goes into the porta potty, they knock over the porta potty, and then you got a kid who's been. So, yeah, that's just.
Nasty.
Yeah, it's nasty. So, I mean, and on top of that, it just looks trashy. I mean, I'll be honest, I think porta potties is bad. Having so far. I definitely see the vandals taking advantage of this situation.
Well, I think all we're really looking for now is some options. Because right now we've got one person that basically opens and closes the toilets and stuff. And, you know, I mean, of course, Public Works, I guess, can do that too. But I mean, seems like to me we could try them and see, you know. It's not perfect, but. Oh, Luke says that park in San Antonio we go to, it has cages around them, so you can't turn them over. There you go. So if we decide we want to keep them, we can.
I'd say just talk to the porta potty people and see what they have to secure them, if they do anything special.
We can put them out of the way. There's places where they wouldn't be too visible, but still where people could utilize.
I think that was one of the discussions that was brought up, putting it in a different place.
Well, I don't know. I can't win for losing in this deal.
That the others be closed as soon as the park guy leaves for the day. And then
I think we have the normal hours right now when they actually close it, right? So I think the discussions that we have people that are out there out of those normal hours are using it, they don't have the opportunity to have a restroom if they need to. So, it's up to you, council. Whatever you guys want to do, we're throwing the options out there for you to consider.
It's a tough issue. I agree that they're certainly not attractive, but people out early, people out late, they walk the track, they run the track.
Yeah, thinking of my dad. When he was a kid, I don't even tell you right now.
Statute of limitations.
Well, I also agree with Charles, it's an opportunity for more vandalism. Unless we drive stakes in the ground and secure them, we're asking people to put them in there to do that. If we put them out of the way somewhere where they're not seen by just everybody walking in the park, more of an opportunity to get them over when no one's looking.
I've seen things like a little trailer. Actually, there was one of these in Fredericksburg where I worked. It was like a little trailer, and it was just a portable bathroom, but it was bigger than a porta potty. It had electricity, it was a little, just put a generator, just hook it up to something. But all the tanks had to be drained just like they do. It was all back. I remember working that thing, but it was encased with wood and made it look nice. The door had steps up, so it wasn't. It didn't look like we had a portable potty out there. So there's ways to make it look nicer.
So what would stop them from vandalizing the inside of that?
I'm not talking about vandalism, I'm just talking about making it look not as portable potty-ish. Once you've seen one, you've seen them all, man. I've seen a lot of graffiti in the inside.
I'm gonna go on a limb here, and make a motion that we table this for now. And, see what the police can do about the, vandalism in the current building.
I got a motion for us to go ahead and table. Second? Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you so much, appreciate that. The update from city staff on financing infrastructure projects, Alderman Case.
Just looking for info for the council, man. What the latest and greatest.
Let's do it from over here since I'll be real quick. There's really nothing we can do until we get the audit back. The audit we'll have a draft on Monday. We'll do the presentation about a week later. And then once we have that, then we'll go forward with that. I know the cap budget is extremely important right now. That's pretty much something I'm really focused on, is to get them what they need to do this. But we have a lot of work ahead of us on that.
So we're thinking completed audit by the end of the board.
We're meeting Monday, and she's hoping, I'm not gonna say hoping, she'll have something by the next week, and then we can have something on paper. The problem is proving the financial liability for a $5 to $7 million loan. That's where we're kind of having an issue. Any questions?
Well, yeah, until we get the audit, you can't really do anything, right?
So your net position's not gonna change very much in the audit, where that's, the audit itself is gonna be okay, but there's other stuff we need to look at, that's why I wanted to find out.
And after we get that completed audit, where the financial advisors thinking as far as getting the certificate of obligations?
For which one, how much will we have, that's all.
That first one, I mean, the 7 million.
We're gonna have, there's gonna be a lot more paperwork than it would be for the 1 million. And, that's one thing Mark wants to make sure that we have actual financials that can prove with the forecast that we can fund that. Which, no, go ahead, ask.
No, that's my question, because the longer we wait, as you've seen last week with the interest rate.
Oh,
So
absolutely,
it's-
absolutely.
we're
But
talking-
he was still at the point of saying, let's only borrow what you need at this point. He doesn't want to go for that whole 20 million. I know Craig sent us emails today on the
Wastewater treatment.
The wastewater treatment plant, that we've got to work in there too, because what Andrew wants to do is we're trying to lump all of the capital projects into one, kind of budget that includes the sidewalks and everything that we have going, anything that's current, even, the water well for, no, I backed out on that one because we've already spent stuff for that. Anything coming out to that new part of it, and then we're gonna work it in that way. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
And, a couple of the council members had asked me about a meeting on the financial, committee, and I purposely have not done anything on that because I want the audit in front of me before we sit down. And I really want to brief everybody.
So we're shooting for next council meeting. Okay. Be able to get that taken care of. Anything else? All right, thank you, Lynette. Appreciate that. Okay, Q, discuss and consider resignation of city attorney. Tom?
That's right. This is my last meeting. We're going to resign at the end of this meeting. That's it.
Gonna retire, Tom?
Well, David, this is my first step into retirement, yeah. I'm in a transition phase of my life. You've been retired, right, from the Air Force for a while. Mary's been retired. Sam's been retired. So I just want to join your ranks.
Welcome, brother.
I move that we accept the city attorney's resignation there.
I'll second that.
Okay. Yeah, any discussion?
One thing I'd like to say is that I still have an ethical responsibility, Mayor. Any ongoing projects, if you guys need help with them, I've got to help you, okay? If you don't want my help, that's a different story.
So Tom, how does it work as part of discussion? So those things that that we're open. Is it a complete disconnect at this point?
No, I just said, you know, if you need help on any pending items, I have to help ethically, unless, of course, you don't want my help.
Okay.
So you'll still be practicing where you are in your office?
Oh, yes.
Packing up and going to Bahamas, right? Not that.
I'll have to ask my wife.
She says yes to Bahamas.
If I'm packing up, I'm probably going to Sam's house.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so you'll be here if we need to talk.
Yes.
Uh, one other thing in the discussion area here, the obvious point is we'll need a city attorney.
Yes.
You're obviously connected, you've been with us for what, 40 years?
41.
And so you're connected in this area. How do you feel about maybe suggesting people for us to talk to?
Well, that'd be great. You know, I think Diz Navarro, the mayor had one of the principals down here from Diz Navarro last year or something on the ethics update. Remember that, Mayor? They're a good firm. I can recommend them. There's probably some other ones. I have talked to some individual lawyers. I don't know if you want to consider them, but I can come up with some people.
Okay,
Yeah.
but you're open to discussion on that.
Absolutely, absolutely. I want what is best for the city of Lyman.
Good deal. Good. Thank you.
Great. So we got a motion, anything else, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Tom, thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate all your service, all the years. 41?
41.
We'll be in touch. Okay, R, discuss and act upon establishing budget workshop dates for the new fiscal year. I asked to put that one on. If you remember last year, we started in May for us to go ahead and start going down the road. So I wanted to go ahead and put it out there for Lynette, for consideration and stuff for us to go ahead and do that. I was wondering if you guys had any suggestions so we can go ahead and go down that road.
My thought is to wait until after the audit review, and then we will go ahead and, once Matt is in the office with us, and we'll get something together on that stuff. But there's a lot of issues that are going to be brought up about the budget that is going to change the way that things are done. I would like to wait till Deb is here and does the briefing, and then we'll move forward from there.
Okay. Council, be prepared. We're probably gonna be tackling this in June timeframe. So we can go ahead and keep, the earlier the better, so we can get our department heads the opportunity to go ahead and get things lined up and we can get it out there. Okay. So, I'm gonna go ahead and get a motion for us to go ahead and table this. All right. Okay, informational items. You want to go ahead and pass on?
Yeah, I do. Update on the handbook. We did get the draft back from our HR specialist, CJ Pettit from San Antonio. We had a Zoom meeting with her for over 2 hours with our team who's been working on this, Josie and Chief and Matt and myself. Really neat. I think we were all impressed with the job that CJ has done for us so far. Very professional job, but now we have to go over it again and make sure that she didn't put things in there that we don't necessarily want. We've done a few things already. But we're moving along, and that's just what I wanted to let you all know. We're moving along. I've asked the team to look over it this week, and I'll be talking to them about a date next week, maybe Monday or Tuesday, for us to sit down and get all of our notes together to hopefully finalize this and get back to CJ one more time and just finish it up. That's one issue. Second issue, Jeannie Simmons, who's on the beautification committee, feels that she can no longer continue serve a beautification committee. And Josie, you said that's Charles District? Okay, so just a heads up, Charles.
Yeah, well, since the redistricting, she's
I
no
think she's
longer
probably in Sam's now, right?
two now, so I have to pull somebody else from
Yeah.
the new five.
Right. She's probably in Sam's.
So we're gonna need to come up with a name for another person for beautification.
I'll get you a name before the next meeting.
Okay.
Anything else? Anybody else? Anything else to share? Information? Yes.
Got some unofficial results for the election. They're still unofficial because I haven't heard from the election judge, but there were still 5 ballots by mail that had not been returned. She had till 5 o'clock today to receive those. And also 3 provisional ballots were sent over to Atascosa County. And so we got those. Mind you, those 8 ballots aren't gonna change the results. I think everybody here is aware of what the results were. But anyway, there was 548 ballots used, 537 that have been counted, 3 provisional ballots out, 5 ballots that have not been returned by mail, and there was some canceled ballots out that had to be canceled. Yeah, but anyway, unofficially, Mayor, you've been reelected, 363 votes, Tom Cade received 174. District 4 race, Marshall Witter received 21 votes, Michael Rodriguez 50 votes. Like I said, those ballots that are still out are not going to make any kind of difference. As soon as I hear from Janice over at Atascosa County, because all 3 provisional ballots were Atascosa County. So that was a good thing. We don't have to deal with all 3 counties. So as soon as I hear from her, our official canvass could start as early as tomorrow and go, we have till the 18th. But I believe those are recommended dates. Officially, a type A general law city councilman can take over on Friday this week. But
Well, it's
anyway,
just find out, see the flexibility we have.
yes.
I know in the past, we kind of scheduled it with one of our regular meetings, and we just did it in the very beginning, so see if we have flexibility for us to be able to do that. So we'll be
As
checking.
soon as I get with Janice, I'll know more.
Good question, Josie. I know we had to kind of scramble there to get it together. Did you get any feedback from the election judge about how it went? Or the early voting on election day? Did the system work?
Oh, yeah, it's some work. We had the machine that we were required to have, we had 6 voters, and took advantage of that. Personally, I think like you, a lot of people kind of like the paper ballot still. She was, her main concern is that, with everything the way it is now and the elections that they've had through the county, everything's been through machines. She was a little antsy about the county. She was surprised how quickly they went. I told her from past experience, if there was only one race on a ballot, it was gonna go pretty quick.
Yeah.
So she was, they started counting about 10:30 in the morning. They started counting the early votes, which was close to 300 votes. And then a couple of hours later, they counted the ones that came in on election day. We had 234 on election day.
So we're gonna keep doing
That'll be totally up to council.
So Josie, thank you
I
for
would-
putting
May I
this
say
together. Oh, I'm sorry.
I used the machine.
Yes, I know you did.
It was good.
Yeah.
It was really, it was very easy and simple to
Headphones,
maintain
right?
by
Frankie,
myself.
Frankie, you had headphones?
I had headphones, so it was private. Had 3 buttons, a circle, a diamond and a square, and the circle, you twisted it, and you go from English to Spanish, and then it tell you how many votes you were allowed, and you were allowed 1 vote, and then it told you who you voted for, and then the square, the triangle button was your next button, and then you okay with your square button. So it was just 3 big buttons, it was very, very simple to use.
So thank you. Appreciate
Thank you.
It was different.
With Margie too.
Yeah, Margie put in a lot of hours.
Being able to take care of.
She did tell me of a few little things that came up, but, things are gonna come up where apparently something happened during the day to where they had laid out ballots, because they had 3 ballots, the one for 1, 2, and 3, which had the mayoral race on it. And then they had the one for 4 and the mayoral, 1 for 5 and the mayoral. They had them laid out. And apparently, during conversation with it and have voters, one of the clerks moved the ballots to where they weren't where they were before, so we had one that came in, got a ballot, and she noticed that it wasn't the ballot that she needed, so she said something. So then the clerk went to the next one, and we had to let her choose from that, and apparently it was like, the shell game, when they move things around, but anyway, she did get the right ballot, eventually, but, Marge took care of that, she assigned somebody else to take care of that.
We appreciate all the efforts, all the volunteers and everybody that helped out. I think it went well just for us to be able to take care of that. And the only other thing I wanted to add, I do have a list, but just so we're talking about that, to Mr. Rodriguez, I just want to say congratulations to being able to represent and be part of us. We'll keep you posted, Josie will keep you posted in the sense of the swearing in and all that, based on the dates.
Thank you.
We need to do that.
I look forward to being here, so it'll be interesting.
That'd be good. Good opportunity. Other things to pass on, just want to go ahead and let you know that the Railroad Commission, we had a Railroad Commission pipeline safety evaluation. Kudos to James. We actually had 0 write-ups on there. So that worked out really good. No violations, no nothing. So thank you. Thank you. I know you work closely with CPS, being able to take care of that, but you have the responsibility of that. So we appreciate that. Well, update, just so you know, everything is going the way planned. The only curveball that we had was last week with the storm that actually came in on the outer edge, the area that Reese said put extra screws in there. It actually lifted them, which is exactly what we had before. They were supposed to send somebody out today. Is that correct, James?
I never saw them, they were here late, but never saw them later.
So we're supposed to have somebody either today or tomorrow to re-examine and see what modifications, see what we can do on that. But that's a hiccup that we actually had. We're still in the sense of just waiting for some of the equipment to come in, the bottles in the building. But yes.
The meters, the 6-inch meters here, but they're not gonna install it until we flush the lines. We're supposed to flush either Friday morning's our first choice for Thursday, or our second at 10 o'clock in the morning. We're gonna flush well forward.
There we go. We're gonna start the process going down there, so that'd be great. So kudos to James and all the efforts. Appreciate taking care of that. We'll keep you posted as we get closer, but we need to do a few steps before we finalize it. Frontage roads update, we had to do some modifications last week. We started getting complaints, just so you know, from some of the business owners that are along the Best Western. Lynette, thank you so much for helping out with some of those. But we literally went ahead and talked to TxDOT. They came out here within a day and a half. They reconfigured it, so it's a lot easier to be able to get to the business. There was confusion because they had road closed sign on it, but it was diversion, and the way that they redid it, it looks a lot better. It's working. That's going to be going on for at least another month and a half before they actually start working on the other side. But if you hear of any business owners or anybody in there, please let us know so we can reach out to TxDOT and go ahead and take care of that. Projects for redoing the streets. I know we're going to be waiting for school to be out, so it's coming. So for those of you that have some of your streets that we're going to redo, they'll probably be being done after school is out. Josie, thank you for helping out with the ISO grants report, the one with the building code, and getting that taken care of. Who has left to finish doing that?
Actually, Mr. Smith did some today, and then Jim and I are gonna sit down next, and then the guy will be out next week to discuss it with us.
Good. That's a report that we have to turn in. It usually happens every 5 years. So appreciate the efforts in taking care of that. Wanted to let everybody know that we had a meeting with the San Antonio folks, and this is the mayors getting together. San Antonio has gotten up to the next level for non-attainment. They're waiting for EPA guidance. That's air quality. So that means that there's going to be a little bit more restrictions in San Antonio and different things that the EPA puts on them, the things that they need to do. Why do I mention that? We need to pay close attention because in the Medina County side of the house, we're already getting some extra looks because certain things that you might not be able to do, you're probably looking at surrounding counties. So that might be coming down the pike, but we'll keep you abreast of that. I just passed out this side, you'll get it on here. This is a demographic study. Last year, we actually paid to be part of this, along with the school. Do you remember that? Just to kind of get a breakdown of the kids in the different areas. The study actually went out, it went to the school, but the company never sent it back to us. So with the help of Lynette and Josie, we were able to figure out that they did cash a check a couple of weeks ago. So we reached out to them and said, hey, help us out with this. So the school helped us out, we got a copy of it, and we're taking care of.
So did the school get reimbursed the share that they paid?
No, they only paid the half.
Okay, so they only paid the half.
Yeah, they only paid half, we paid the half, but for some reason, the contractor never gave us a copy. So, but there's your copy, so you can review it and kind of get an idea when you have a chance, and if we need to talk, we'll put it on the agenda next time.
Was that go on the website? Was that, can we get something like that on the website,
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Definitely. Emergency management conference is coming up in May and in June, so be prepared. Now that we have an idea of how the council is going to be set up, we're going to need, Matt will need to start talking about setting up some of these opportunities. So go ahead and take care of that. Wanted all of you to know that in where Naomi's is at, which is Haxel Building, there's two stores in there. One is a boutique, the other one is like a fishing rod place in there. They're gonna be relocating out of that building. One of them is gonna move over to the Hacks Auto Sales Building. It's that little building, portable, well, looks like a house portable, but it's right next to the paleteria. It's on the other side of the fence. So the boutique is gonna move in there, and then the fishing place is gonna move into Mr. and Mrs. Bond's section right next to the apron shop. So they're gonna stay in town. They wanna stay in town. They like what's happening in here, and they like the sales that they have. It's just that the rent went up too high. So they needed to find a different space to go along with that. We are also getting an indication that we have one of the antique stores that is closing down over in Cassville. If you guys have ever gone to the Rainbow Theater, it's in that old district. That's shutting down, and they're actually gonna be relocating to Lido. They're gonna be coming over here.
It'll be on the back part of the pottery.
Yes, the southbound pottery, they're gonna be moving in there. Along with that, the southbound pottery, Mr. and Mrs. Pena has been working a lot with some of our local vendors. So we're gonna have a few other vendors in there. Our Lido Chamber is looking at going in there too. So there's gonna be movement in that facility to be able to bring in some additional vendors to come in there. So it's gonna be good for our area to take care of that. So stay tuned with that. We'll keep you posted, but just so you kind of have an idea. Oh, and also in the southbound pottery, they are looking at somebody maybe opening up a small little gym in there too, to be able to provide some classes. So stay tuned with that. We'll find out. We'll pass it on to you.
A gym like working out.
I love it.
Not a restaurant.
I love it, Chief, too.
Chief was ready to go eat already.
Yeah, Jim. Yeah, the gyms. We're already thinking about the other breakfast place too, I know. I want a special thanks to the PD for escorting our Army service member that I was actually getting deployed. Thank you for doing that. Kudos from the family, the Hunts, to all of you that participated and helped out with that. It was a last minute, had to get him out and ship him out. He's gone for 400 days. So they were really impressed on how it all worked out, and we'll keep you posted to opportunity to take care of them. They do have kids at school here too. Birthdays later in May, we actually have Matt and James, so we'll talk in the next meeting. It's gonna be right around the
We're
corner.
gonna be partying it up.
Be able to celebrate a little bit.
We're a little crazy.
with that.
Champagne.
Lots of stuff covered tonight. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Is there any last minute, anything else? No? Okay. Appreciate your time, your efforts. We had a lot of stuff to take care of, and we did. And I look forward to the next opportunity. We'll keep you posted with the swearing in and all the movement that goes along with that. And Tom, once again, thank you for your service. Appreciate everything for this community. And we'll get together. We'll definitely be able to do something that goes along with that. It's 9:44 right now. Do I have a motion? Okay. I have a motion for us to go ahead and adjourn. Second, any discussion? All those in favor? Any
You know what I
opposed?
mean, like, I'm
Thank you so much, appreciate it.
talking about.